Chapter 1002. Itagami Island, Saikai Academy. The sky was still sunny and the sun was shining brightly. The huge Kaihai Academy was covered by the scorching sun, and the temperature was many degrees higher than a person's body temperature. Fortunately, the buildings in Kaihai Academy were air-conditioned. Otherwise, no one would have the energy to study seriously in this kind of weather. Be it students or teachers, no one would want to be exposed to the sun in this kind of weather. The buildings in Saikai Academy are filled with people's voices, but outside, it's eerily quiet. Not even the sound of cicadas can be heard. It's hard to tell if it's strange or natural. No matter how high or low the temperature was, it didn't seem to have anything to do with Natsuki. While the students below the podium were complaining about how hot the air conditioner was, Natsuki was still wearing her usual black lace gothic costume. It seemed to be very thick and she could wear it even in the winter. If it was someone else wearing this attire, they would be drenched in sweat by now. However, Natsuki doesn't seem to be affected at all. She has an expressionless face as she looked at the students who are looking at her with a hint of seriousness in her eyes. Natsuki is trying to deepen the image of her students in her mind. After all, she's about to leave this world with Wu Yen. She won't be able to return for a while. She maintained this state until the bell rang, but she didn't announce the end of class. Instead, his gaze was still moving, sweeping across the faces of his students one by one, causing the students below to feel a little strange. They looked at each other with puzzlement on their faces. What's wrong with their dignified teacher? It's no wonder they have such thoughts. These students have never seen Natsuki lose her composure like this before. Perhaps Natsuki sensed her students' strange gazes. She finally retracted her gaze and raised her head. Don't forget to revise your homework when you get back. Also, don't forget to prepare for your new homework. Last time, everyone left Itagami Island because of that incident. Since everyone left Itagami Island, the school has stopped classes for the next 10 days. Remember to find some time to make up for it, don't waste it. Natsuki is like a teacher who is about to retire. She didn't leave the classroom right away but started nagging. This was something that would never have happened in the past. Natsuki-chan, what happened? Even the stubborn Koju sensed that something was wrong with Natsuki. He frowned and looked to his side where Motoki Yase was sitting. This. Motoki Yase frowned. His eyes were full of doubt. Even though his status was not very high because he was very familiar with Xian Gaiyong, he also knew that this Nayu was not a clone but the real body. Could it be that Nayu's personality was different from that of her avatar? Naturally, Yase Moki couldn't answer this question. Under the strange gazes of the students, Nayu finally stopped her abnormal nagging and waved the fan in her hand impatiently. Alright, class is over. Go do whatever you want. He left these words behind. Nayu left the podium and walked towards the classroom door. Seeing this, Guqing hurriedly left his seat and ran towards Nayu. Wait, Natsuki-chan. He rushed in front of Nayu. Before he could finish his sentence, Nayu turned around and smashed Guqing's head with her fan, knocking him to the ground. Don't use the word you behind my name. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Guqing got up from the ground while clutching his head. He was in so much pain that tears came out of his eyes, but he still looked at Nayu. Are you okay? Umph. Nayu snorted and turned around. Instead of worrying about me, why don't you worry about yourself? Akatsuki, you're late again. Prepare yourself for tutoring this weekend. Guqing's face turned into a melon face. Nayu tilted her head and glanced at Guqing before smiling. Remember to be on time? When he saw Nayu's smile, Guqing's mood improved a lot for some reason. I know, Natsuki-chan. Didn't I tell you not to use the word you behind your name? I know. Don't hit me. Itagami Island, man-made island management commune. Kanon sat in a meeting room looking at her adoptive father. She had a comforting smile on her face. I'm relieved to see you in such good spirits. You don't have to worry about me. Kensei Kanase adjusted his glasses expressionlessly. For the time being, I'm living a good life here. You seem to be living a good life too. Kanon nodded fiercely. Sensei treats me well, Kotori-chan takes good care of me too. The neighbors are also my classmates, so I'm living a happy life. Happy? Kensei Kanase lowered his head. His large glasses made it impossible to see the expression in his eyes. That's not bad. The room went silent. Kanon stared at Kensei Kanase with her beautiful eyes for a while. She clasped her hands together and said, I might leave this place for a while. Kensei paused for a moment before his gaze met Kanon's eyes again. When he saw the gentle smile on her face, Kensei paused for a moment before he opened his mouth. Will it be long? Hearing this, Kanan's face blossomed into a smile. She shook her head with her lustrous hair. I should be back soon, is that so? Kensei Kanase nodded nonchalantly and didn't say anything else. The two of them stood there quietly until the meeting time was over. Kanan stood up and bowed to Kensei as he was taken away by the management staff. Itagami Island, Southern Residential Area, Room 704. Let me see. Nagisa sat in the living room and checked the things in front of her with a serious expression. I brought my toothbrush, cup, all my favorite clothes are here. I didn't leave anything behind, right? Nagisa blinked and tilted her head. She then pounded her palm. All right. I forgot to bring my pillow. Nagisa didn't notice Kotori, who was sitting beside her, couldn't stay calm. Seeing Nagisa rushing into the room to bring her pillow, Kotori couldn't hold back her emotions and grabbed Nagisa's collar. That's enough. You're not going on a vacation. Why are you bringing a pillow, toothbrush, and cup? Kotori dragged Nagisa back by the back of her collar and said in an unquestionable tone, You're not allowed to bring these. And Nagisa screamed as if it was the end of the world. How can that be? If I say it's okay, it's okay. Kotori declared domineeringly. She grabbed Nagisa and walked out the door. Anyway, time will stop flowing in this world. Just follow us like this. Yuwa. Don't drag me. Itagami Island, Southern Residential Area, Room 703, Wu Yen stood by the window and looked down at the noisy pedestrians. He turned around to face Kotori, Natsuki, Nagisa, and Kanan. Are you ready? Natsuki and Kanan nodded. Nagisa was the only one who mumbled unwillingly. I'm not ready, sob. I forgot to bring a lot of things. Everyone chose to ignore Nagisa's nagging and glanced at each other. Then, Wu Yen looked at Natsuki, Nagisa, and Kanan. He closed his eyes and he cut off the supply of mana to the three girls. Natsuki, Nagisa, and Kanan turned into streams of mana. They returned to Wu Yan's body after losing the support of their mana. Since they've become Wu Yan's familiar, they're part of Wu Yan's body. Wu Yan can bring them away without needing to summon them again. It's good news. Wu Yan smiled when he sensed the three girls' consciousnesses slumbering in his body. He looked at Kotori and waited for her to nod before speaking. System, we're leaving this world. Wu Yan and Kotori's bodies slowly faded away until they disappeared. No one knows that the five of them are missing from this world. Chapter 1003. Behemoth Forest, Campsite. After a period of chaos, the campsite had gradually calmed down and returned to its usual orderly state. Originally, there were 3 people with the highest authority in charge of the campsite. They were also responsible for organizing the resources and information needed by the Ailu Empire and handing them over to the Ailu Empire's royal family. But now 2 of the 3 people in charge of the campsite were killed. Only Pelosi was left to manage the campsite. In the eyes of outsiders, Pelosi was undoubtedly the one who benefited the most from this series of events. Not only did he eliminate 2 competitors without wasting any energy, but he also became the only person in charge of the camp in one fell swoop. It could be said that Pelosi was now the only person in charge of the entire camp. Which one of the upper echelons of the various families who came to the Behemoth Forest campsite didn't want to reap some benefits for their family? With Pelosi's position as the only person in charge of the campsite, the one who reaped the most benefits is undoubtedly him. But only Pelosi himself knows that he has a lot of unspeakable troubles. Reap some benefits from the campsite? Yes, he does. But compared to these benefits, he'd rather have 2 people of the same status as him managing the campsite. Even if they're his rivals, at least he won't be as tired as he is now. Not only does he have to constantly monitor the situation in the Behemoth Forest, but he also has to make an inventory of the Behemoth Forest's profits every day. More importantly, he has to search for traces of the Beast King. All these big and small matters are piled on his shoulders. It's easy to imagine how tiring it is for him. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that there's a group of people in the campsite who can cause trouble at any time. Pelosi has to keep an eye on these people's movements while he's busy with official business. He's worried that if something goes wrong, he, the last person in charge of the campsite, will be killed. Although the campsite looks peaceful, it's actually more turbulent than before. After all, there's only one person left in charge of the campsite. The Ailu Empire probably won't allow the Lori family to monopolize the campsite, so the royal family will probably choose another person to take over. How can the upper echelons of the other families not be tempted by this possibility? Before the Thunder King left the camp, he had repeatedly and earnestly warned Pelosi that he had to maintain the order of the entire camp. Don't let those restless fellows use this opportunity to cause any trouble. If it really reached that stage, the camp would have to pay attention to the situation in the behemoth forest, and at the same time, they would also have to deal with internal and external problems. It wouldn't be strange if the camp was destroyed. Thus, another heavy responsibility was placed on Pelosi's shoulders. Because of this, in just a short period of time, Pelosi had lost a lot of weight. Fortunately, Pelosi did not realize that the most serious troublemaker among the group of troublemakers was no longer in the camp and had disappeared without a trace. Otherwise he would definitely be even thinner. Wu Yen had spent about 2 months in the Blood Raid world, but only about half a day had passed in the Spalier world. It was normal that no one had discovered him in half a day, of course. The chaos in the camp had nothing to do with Chuju and the girls. As long as it wasn't directed at them, they didn't want to be involved in the camp's affairs. Plus, on their side, there's still a problem that hasn't been solved yet. At this moment, in a large tent that belonged to the girls, a rather strange scene took place. "Let me go." Shokuho Misaki struggled with all her might. Her face was red from exerting too much force. However, she didn't seem like she was going to give up. Despite being a sports idiot, Shokuho Misaki displayed an astonishing amount of strength as she struggled to move forward. Shokuho Misaki may not have a hard time walking, she may be a sports idiot, but she's not that stupid to the point where she needs 10 seconds to take a single step. The reason why it's so hard is because there are 3 people hanging on her soft waist. "Shokuho, calm down." Kinuhata Sayai's face was red. She was being dragged along by Shokuho Misaki. She almost wanted to use her ability. "You shouldn't be so stubborn." Frenda also hugged Shokuho Misaki's waist tightly, trying her best to stop her from moving forward, while shouting at her. "You're just bad at cooking, right? What's the big deal? Aren't you a queen? Why do you have to cook yourself? Can't you just wait for someone else to cook for you?" "Yeah, Shokuho." For the first time, Takitsubu Riku followed Kinuhata Sayai and Frenda and hugged Shokuho Misaki tightly. "If you're hungry, I can cook for you?" "No." Shokuho Misaki didn't even think about it. She refused and continued her difficult journey. "How dare you look down on my cooking?" While saying that, Shokuho Misaki's gaze turned to the corner. There, Kurumi was smiling and sipping on a cup of black tea. Obviously, the person who looked down on her cooking is Kurumi. Seeing Kurumi's happy face, Shokuho Misaki was furious. She struggled even harder. "Let me go. Kinuhata, Frenda, Takitsubo. This time, I will cook something that will surprise all of you." "No." Hearing Shokuho Misaki's words, the trio screamed as if their parents just died. At the same time, they hugged Shokuho Misaki even harder, unwilling to let go. "Surprise." Chuju and Mikoto looked at Shokuho Misaki, who made such a declaration. Their mouths twitched. Recalling the cookies Shokuho Misaki made today, Chuju and Mikoto's face turned red. "Indeed, that dish is too shocking. It looks fun." Flandre-chan sucked on her finger as she watched the trio playing around with Shokuho Misaki. She rolled her red eyes and looked at Shirono. Hey Shirono, let's go play with the sisters, okay?" That? Fourth Shaman's face was a little flustered as she tugged at Flandre-chan's hand. "Let's not disturb the sisters." "Why?" Shirono was stunned. She didn't know what to say. It was Shirono who spoke up with a sneaky laugh. Well, they are trying to improve their relationship. Maybe there will be some flirty sparks." "Ambiguous sparks?" Flandre-chan's mind was filled with question marks. As for Astria and Toka, they were hugging each other as they trembled in fear. "Shokuhane-san's cooking is scary. It's not good at all. I don't want to eat it." For 2 gluttons who can eat anything to say something like that, they must have tasted Shokuho Misaki's cookie before. Just like that, the 4 girls were fooling around. Beside them, there was a girl who was watching with a smile, 2 girls who were embarrassed, 2 little girls who were watching curiously, and 2 girls with plump figures who were hugging each other while shivering. It was not an exaggeration to say that this scene was strange. When Wu Yen and Kotori appeared in the tent, they saw this strange scene. One can only imagine how they reacted to this situation. Kotori raised an eyebrow and looked at Wu Yen. "Are they playing around?" "Well." Wu Yen put on a fake smile. "Who knows, Yen?" Hinajiku and Mikoto finally noticed Wu Yen and Kotori standing there. They cried out in surprise and they rushed over. Wu Yen thought they were going to give him a warm hug, but who knew? 2 slender hands grabbed his collar at the same time and pulled him in front of them. "What are you doing here? Think of something. Stop that woman from going crazy." Looking at the ferocious expressions on the 2 beautiful faces so close to him, he almost couldn't wrap his head around it. However, his intuition told him that it's best not to think too much about it, so he quickly changed the topic. Alright, where's Ikaros? Ikaros? Hinajiku and Mikoto looked at each other in surprise. I think I saw her just now. She probably went to the lake to take a bath. Wu Yan's eyes flashed with a bright light. Chapter 1004. The night was as dark as wine. The fluorescent moonlight was like a transparent veil. Under the starlight, it slowly covered the ground far below. The ground seemed to be covered in frost. Little silver spots were like stars in the sky. They dotted the ground for a while and disappeared for a while. When they reappeared, they were no longer in the same place. There were no clouds in the sky, the night sky was unobstructed. The moonlight and starlight scanned every corner of the ground, the trees in the behemoth forest, the tents in the campsite, the hills around the campsite, and a small lake. The lake was located in a corner of the campsite. It was surrounded by cliffs on 3 sides. There was only one path that could fit 4 or 5 people. It led to a forest of tents in front of the campsite. That forest of tents was where Wu Yan's group and the Misaka sisters' tents were. In the camp, many people knew that there was a lake in this corner. Although the area was not large, the lake water was very clear. Moreover, it was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, and there was only one passage for people to pass through. It was the most suitable place for the female guards to bathe. Unfortunately, the path led to Wu Yan's group and the Misaka sisters' tents. If they wanted to enter, they would have to pass through here. It was impossible not to be discovered. Chuju, Mikoto, and the other girls were tempted. However, this was still someone else's territory. The girls might do whatever they wanted, but they weren't so reckless as to take over this place. So, under Shokuho Misaki's control, she used some of the resources she hunted in the behemoth forest to make the lake a place for the girls and the Misaka sisters to bathe. Of course, a certain wolf could also use this place, but after he found out about the existence of such a place and started to have some dirty thoughts, the girls seemed to have seen through his inner thoughts. Every time he used it, there was no one else in the lake. He didn't even have a Misaka sister. This filled the wolf with so much hatred that he beat his chest and stomped his feet. It was night time. Usually no one would come here to bathe, but today there was something different about the lake. There was a hint of life in the air. The sound of the flapping wings was exceptionally clear under the gentle breeze, like a beautiful melody reverberating rhythmically. The girl flew through the air with the wings behind her back, flying into the lake surrounded by the rock walls. Then, under the cover of pink feathers, the girl stretched out a foot, lightly touching the ground, and landed on the ground. The moonlight shone on the girl's body. It illuminated her voluptuous body and reflected her pair of beautiful pink wings. It also exposed the angel-like girl's devastatingly beautiful and delicate appearance under the light. Her pair of jade-like eyes made people feel pity for her as they flickered with faint ripples. If the male guards in the campsite saw this, they would have lost all of their hearts. Who knows how many hearts would be snatched away by this angel that descended from the heavens. Then, they would be heartlessly abandoned in her heart that belonged to only one person for the rest of her life. The girl was none other than Ikaros. Looking at the sparkling lake in front of her, Ikaros' pitiful face revealed a trace of peculiarity, very moving. The wings on her back shrunk to the size of a palm. If you don't look carefully, you won't be able to see it. Ikaros crouched down after folding her wings behind her back. Her jade-like hands gently glided across the surface of the lake, creating an exceptionally beautiful scene. But Ikaros didn't seem to mind at all. She stood up again and started to take off her clothes. Smooth skin, wing-like collarbones, and a curvaceous figure. As long as any of these appeared on a woman, it would be enough to increase the beauty of this woman by dozens of points. And if all of these were concentrated on a young girl, then she would truly become a beauty that could bring disaster to a country. Fortunately, and as if it was only natural, Ikaros had everything, and she also had a beautiful face that could take one's breath away. A girl like this, even if she removed her wings, no one would doubt that she's an angel. The reeds around the lake covered Ikaros's body. Even if someone were to stand on the only path and look up, they wouldn't be able to see what's going on in the lake. This is one of the reasons why the girls were able to bathe here without worry. Under the cover of the reeds, Ikaros stepped into the lake with her beautiful ankles. Amidst the ripples, she reached the center of the lake. The lake isn't that deep, the deepest part is only Ikaros's shoulder. Otherwise, Ikaros's wings would have sunk into the lake with its master if they're sucked in the water. Her hands gently caressed her shoulders, collarbones, her round breasts. Ikaros washed her body to her heart's content. She looked like she was putting a lot of effort into it, but if one were to look closely, they would have noticed that her eyes have lost focus. If other people's eyes lose focus, there's only one reason, it's because they're distracted. But those who are familiar with Ikaros know that she's not the type to lose her mind. The only time she loses her mind is when she's missing her master. Ikaros doesn't have a lot of emotions, this is something everyone knows. She has computing and combat abilities that surpass the average angel, but it's not an exaggeration to say that her emotional abilities are close to zero. She doesn't know the difference between men and women, she doesn't know what love is. She only learned a little bit of how to conduct herself under the influence of the girls around her, but it's only a little bit. If Astrea can only be described as cute without computer skills, then Ikaros can only be described as pitiful without any emotional abilities. But because of this, once Ikaros fell in love, this love would last forever, and no one would be able to destroy it. Wu Yan is a lucky guy, he walked into Ikaros's heart when she was still in a daze. That's how he managed to win her heart. Wu Yan spent about 2 months in Bloodlust Rampage. Converted to Spalier World Time, it's about half a day. In other words, it's only been half a day since Wu Yan left Ikaros's line of sight. But for Ikaros, forget half a day, she can't help but miss her master for even a minute and a second. There's only one person left in her mind. Ikaros splashed water on herself absent-mindedly while muttering the word master. She's wondering when Wu Yan will return. It was also at this moment that an extremely soft sound of footsteps could be heard on the path leading to the lake. The footsteps are as light as water droplets. A normal person wouldn't be able to hear it even if they were standing 3 or 4 meters away. The footsteps in the path are at least 20 meters away, the possibility of being heard is even lower. But Ikaros still heard the footsteps despite being in a daze. As if awakened, Ikaros's indigo eyes slowly focused. She looked towards the direction of the lake entrance. A sci-fi box expanded in her eyes. Ikaros tried her best to bury herself in the water. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, covering the important parts of her body. Her eyes were fixed on the entrance of the tunnel. She was on high alert. Ikaros, who doesn't have emotional abilities, shouldn't be able to understand this. Even after interacting with Wu Yan's group, the only thing she can do is to be shy in front of Wu Yan. When facing other people, even if they're young girls, Ikaros won't be affected much. But Ikaros knows her master likes her body a lot. That's why Ikaros's heart has been branded. Her body belongs to her master. With this thought in mind, Ikaros's eyes showed some vigilance, the wings on her back started to tremble. If she finds out it's not a woman or someone she knows, she's going to fly away as fast as she can without hesitation. But when the owner of the footsteps appeared in front of Ikaros's eyes, that thought vanished like a puff of smoke. Chapter 1005. When the two pairs of eyes met, the two pairs of eyes simultaneously shone with a strange light. In her indigo eyes, the rippling frame disappeared without a trace. Instead, it's replaced by waves, ripples, joy, and longing that couldn't be suppressed no matter what. It's extremely complicated, but they all represent the girl's current emotions, they can't be concealed. Her wine-red eyes aren't that complicated, there's only one emotion inside, stunning. Her long pink hair was no longer tied up by a ponytail and cascaded down like a waterfall, covering the girl's smooth back. Her skin seemed to be flushed due to shyness. Although the color was dark, there was an indescribable beauty when matched with her fair skin. Her pupils are indigo, her hair is pink, and other than these two colors, there's only one color left on her body. That's white. Enough to touch people's hearts. Whether it's her exposed shoulders or her barely discernible body under the water, the girl's pearl-like white skin stole Wu Yan's gaze, making him unable to shift his gaze away. This isn't the first time Wu Yan admired this body without hindrance, it's not even the first time he played with it, touched it, but seeing it again, Wu Yan still can't stop his heart from beating faster than normal. It's like there's a fire burning in his heart, it's uncomfortable and throbbing. Master. Different from the stunned Wu Yan, Ikaros is still immersed in the joy of seeing Wu Yan, there's no change in her expression. She's still as lovable as ever, but the light in her eyes has already melted. Ikaros has 1,000 words she wants to say, she also has the urge to say 1,000 words, but these words, these impulses, they're all catalyzed by the ripples in her heart. In the end, it all turned into a simple sentence, "Welcome back." Hearing this, Wu Yan was stunned for a moment before smiling. The strange emotions in his heart also calmed down in this warm greeting. "I'm back, Ikaros, master?" Ikaros doesn't know how to smile. However, she is in a very good mood right now. She wanted to get out of the water and stick to Wu Yan's back like she always does. Then, wherever Wu Yan goes, she will follow. But obviously, Ikaros remembers that she's in the water but forgot that she's completely naked, Splash. The sound of water splashing could be heard. Ikaros's upper body are exposed to the water, it's also exposed to Wu Yan's eyes. Wu Yan's eyes almost popped out. Wait. Ikaros. Seeing Ikaros about to come ashore, Wu Yan subconsciously covered his nose and called out to stop her. It's not that he wants to be a gentleman, nor is it that he wants to pretend to be a good person or that he suddenly found his conscience. It's just that he's worried that if he really let Ikaros walk ashore like this, he wouldn't be able to resist pouncing on this alluring body. Of course. Pouncing on her isn't a big deal, I don't think Ikaros will reject Wu Yan's love. But if it really comes down to it, he might forget why he's here. The reason why he came to see Ikaros is because it's been 2 months. Wu Yan misses her a lot. Secondly, there's something he wants to say to Ikaros when they're alone. As for why Wu Yan who wants to see Ikaros and has something to say to her, he chose to do it when she's bathing. Only he himself knows the answer to that question. With great difficulty, Wu Yan averted his gaze from Ikaros's full body, he bitterly smiled. Don't come ashore yet, you're not dressed yet. Hearing Wu Yan's words, Ikaros finally realized her condition. Her cheeks flushed red, her indigo eyes filled with shyness. This is the kind of emotion that only bursts out when facing Wu Yan. Once again submerging herself into the water, Ikaros sneaked a peek at Wu Yan. After confirming Wu Yan didn't leave, Ikaros breathed a sigh of relief. Instead, she felt an inexplicable sense of loss. It's strange. Not sure if he noticed Ikaros's strange behavior, Wu Yan bitterly put down his hand that was covering his nose and scolded himself. If I don't cover my nose, will it bleed? It's not like I'm that idiot Koju. Shaking his head, Wu Yan looked at Ikaros. He scratched his cheek and spoke. I'm really sorry, Ikaros. Ikaros was stunned. Seeing this, Wu Yan helplessly shrugged and chuckled. Every time I go out, I make you worry. I'm really sorry, Ikaros. Ikaros finally understood why Wu Yan said this. She lowered her head and shook it. Her mouth opened as if she wanted to say something but she didn't know what to say. Expressing her feelings has always been Ikaros's weakness. As if he saw through Ikaros's dilemma, Wu Yan laughed. Well, Ikaros, no matter what, I've apologized to you. Just accept it. This time, Ikaros felt even more troubled. She asked anxiously. Is this an order? What order? Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I never intended to order you to do anything. Ikaros only needs to do what your heart desires. My heart desires. Ikaros tilted her head and looked at Wu Yan in confusion. If that's the case, will Master be happy? Wu Yan was stunned, he sighed helplessly. Ikaros, I want you to be happy, I don't want you to cater to me for my sake, understand? Ikaros stayed silent for a bit. Not long after, a sentence that made Wu Yan's heart tremble came out of her mouth. I don't really understand, but if Master is happy, Ikaros will be happy too. Listening to Ikaros's childlike naivety but her heartfelt words, Wu Yan could clearly feel Ikaros's feelings for him. That nerve in the deepest part of his brain was stirred up again and again. Wu Yan almost lost control of himself and shed tears. Taking a deep breath, Wu Yan suppressed the throbbing in his heart. He raised his head and met Ikaros's expressive eyes. His face was full of helplessness and love. Then I'll be the same. Smiling gently, Wu Yan said to Ikaros. As long as Ikaros is happy, I'll be happy too. So, Ikaros, tell me, what should I do to make you happy? Happy? Ikaros pressed a hand to her chest, as if her heart would jump out of her chest if she didn't. Following Wu Yan's guidance, Ikaros searched through her memories, trying to find the happy part and summarize the happy part. After a while, she finally got the answer in her heart. I want to follow Master forever. In an instant, Ikaros's eyes shone brightly, so bright that it covered the moonlight and starlight around her. Following Master, Ikaros is very happy. You? Wu Yan didn't know what else to say. This Ikaros, he didn't know if it was intentional or not, but every word she said was teasing Wu Yan's heart, causing it to beat uncontrollably. Even if it missed a beat, it wouldn't be strange. But one thing is for sure, if he doesn't treat this girl well, even getting struck by lightning would be a light punishment. Making this decision, Wu Yan's face lit up with a smile. Ikaros. Walking to the lakeside, Wu Yan waved at Ikaros. Come here, Master. Blushing, Ikaros looked at Wu Yan who was waving at her from the lakeside. She was very shy but in the end she chose to listen to Wu Yan and slowly walked out of the lake. In Wu Yan's eyes, everything around him has disappeared, whether it's the lake, the grass, the mountains, the sky, the earth, everything is gone. All that's left is this extremely beautiful body in front of him that's being held by her master with a blushing face. Reaching out, He wrapped his arms around Ikaros's smooth waist. Wu Yan gently and domineeringly pulled her into his embrace and straddled his body. "I won't leave you again." Following that sentence, Ikaros felt Wu Yan's forceful entry. Her moans coexisted with the night. Chapter 1006. When Wu Yan opened his eyes again, the sky in his field of vision had been replaced by an azure sky. The night sky had faded away without him noticing. The sound of the wind and the chirping of the birds entered Wu Yan's ears, waking him up from his dazed state. Only now did he realize that he had spent the entire night in the midst of the reeds by the lakeside. His gaze swept from the azure sky to the lake. The clear water was still rippling, creating circles of ripples. The ripples were so light that they were almost invisible to the naked eye. Wu Yan could faintly hear the sound of flowing water coming from all directions, from far to near. Rubbing his eyelids, Wu Yan sighed, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He didn't think that he would really have slept in the wild for a night. If not for the fact that he was a vampire instead of an ordinary human, he would have caught a cold long ago. After all, he was still naked. Patting his head, Wu Yan was about to get up, but as soon as he moved, he felt an extremely heavy yet light, contradictory weight in his arms. He was a little dazed, but then he remembered something and smiled. He glanced in front of him. The first thing he saw was a strand of bright pink hair. Then he saw a pretty face that was flushed red. A breathtakingly beautiful face. Perhaps it was because she had slept for an entire night in the wilderness. The beautiful girl's pink hair was covered in raindrops. The raindrops flowed down her soft long hair and slowly dripped down. Some of them dripped onto the ground and sank into the reeds. Some of them dripped onto the girl's similarly flushed skin and slid down her delicate body without a trace of obstruction. Faint rays of light, like tiny spotlights, shone on the angelic girl's pitiful face. Her pitiful and tearful expression fell into Wu Yan's line of sight. A pair of pink, palm-sized wings adorned her fair and smooth back as if they were made by nature. Together with the wing-like accessories by the girl's ears, they undulated up and down like a kitten, causing others to involuntarily adore them. For Ikaros. Of course Wu Yan wasn't an outsider. He's the one she loves the most. But when Wu Yan saw Ikaros' current posture, it still aroused his affection. He couldn't help but caress her face. He scratched her little nose. "Really, with that expression, aren't you forcing me to commit a crime?" It's hard to tell if he's joking or he's being serious. Wu Yan said this with a funny tone. Ikaros wrinkled her little nose and she mumbled softly. She mumbled softly, but judging from the shape of her mouth, it's probably master. Even in her dreams, Ikaros didn't forget how she addressed her master. She almost turned it into a catchphrase. Wu Yan chuckled. Didn't they say that the omnipotent angel doesn't sleep or dream? That's what he said, but he knows that Ikaros, other than the times when she would fall into a deep sleep due to exhaustion, she hasn't slept at all. Astria is the same as well, except that she would also fall asleep under other circumstances. That means she ate too much. Thinking back to Ikaros and Astria, two angels with completely different personalities but equally lovable, Wu Yan suddenly felt like he didn't have enough self-awareness. These two girls are supposed to be loved by him. To be more precise, every single one of the girls by his side seemed to need his love, and they were also worthy of his love. Such a thought flashed through his mind. The faces of the girls flashed through Wu Yan's mind one after another. Wu Yan's love for the girls deepened. At this moment, such a big surprise the moment I wake up, should I say it's surprising? Or should I change my opinion of you? Without any warning, a childish voice filled with inconceivable majesty rang out from Wu Yan's heart. The voice seemed to contain some sort of chill as well. Of course, it's not a good thing. Wu Yan subconsciously froze when he heard the contradictory voice. He reflexively scanned his surroundings, and when he found the owner of the voice in his mind, his eyes lit up and he exclaimed in surprise. "Natsuki, is that you? You still remember me?" The voice that rang in Wu Yan's mind was none other than Wu Yan's familiar, Natsuki, who was sleeping in his blood. However, from the looks of it, Natsuki woke up on her own without Wu Yan's call. She naturally saw everything that happened in Wu Yan's mind, including Ikaros's current state. She might even know what happened last night. Realizing this, Wu Yan's expression froze. As if she could read Wu Yan's mind, Natsuki snorted coldly. "This woman and the other women from yesterday, they're all your mistresses, right?" Wu Yan was too naive. Not only did she know what happened last night with Ikaros, she also knew about how he met Chuju, Mikoto, and the others in the tent. That's... Wu Yan gulped and he grinned sheepishly. He asked her carefully. "You weren't asleep last night?" "Huh?" Natsuki's confused voice rang in Wu Yan's mind. Don't tell me you didn't know that the host's consciousness is connected to the familiars. Wah. Wu Yan almost jumped out of his skin at the unexpected answer. The host's consciousness is connected to the familiars. In other words, his familiar knows everything he's thinking? Just as this thought appeared in his mind, Na Yu's malicious laughter echoed. It seems like he really doesn't know. That's right, even though real familiars have consciousness, they wouldn't come in contact with their host's consciousness. The only familiars that would come in contact with their host's consciousness are the three of us. No, with Agrora there should be four of us. Wait. Wu Yan interrupted her before she could finish. You're saying that you're not the only one who knows about Ikaros and the others. Nagisa, Kanon, and even Agrora? Wu Yan didn't say it out loud, he said it in his heart. However, he managed to imitate the hopeful tone of his voice perfectly. Natsuki thought about it for a bit before she smiled. She didn't answer him directly, she gave him an ambiguous answer. What do you think? That ambiguous answer gave Wu Yan a rough idea of what's going on. Ugh. A word full of pain escaped from his mouth, it's as if he's exhausted all his strength. Wu Yan weakly laid down on the ground. Then what are they doing now? Why aren't they talking? They went back to sleep. Natsuki replied, just like me, they both woke up last night. They were lucky enough to see what you were doing here last night. They were also unlucky enough to come into contact with your consciousness and found out about your lovers. One of them was so embarrassed that she couldn't stand it anymore and fell asleep. The other one was so angry that she didn't want to talk to you anymore and also went to sleep. Wu Yan's heart trembled with every word Natsuki said. By the time she was done, Wu Yan's heart was shaking like a nervous system. He forced a smile that was uglier than crying. What about you? What do you plan to do? Haha. Natsuki's voice sounded like a sneer. Natsuki replied. Even though I'm not interested in watching you fool around, I'll let you know when you're done. Don't forget to take care of your familiars. Yes. Wu Yan tried to figure out if Natsuki was angry from her tone, but he gave up when he heard her laugh. He laughed bitterly. Then, aren't you going to come out and meet everyone? No need. Natsuki was as merciless as ever. I'm not in the mood to interact with your mistresses for the time being. The same goes for Nagisa and Kanae's Kanon. Natsuki seemed to have disappeared after saying that. This time, Wu Yan sensed that Natsuki's consciousness had fallen asleep. He frowned in confusion. I have to pay more attention to my body's condition in the future. Chapter 1007. Under the influence of the clear sky, the atmosphere in the campsite seemed to have livened up. After the night's rest, the garrisons walked out of their tents one by one and began a new day of camp life. Some washed up, some put out the bonfires that had been burning for the whole night, some cooked, and some contacted the higher-ups of their families. For a moment, every corner of the camp was filled with noise and clamor. After keeping watch for an entire night, the patrolling guards yawned and returned to their tents to rest. Those who weren't patrolling the giant beast's forest at night were preparing to gather. Then they would head towards the giant beast's forest to fulfill their duty. Walking out of the only path in front of the lake that was surrounded by mountains on three sides, Wu Yan first saw the Misaka sisters wearing goggles shuttling back and forth between their tents. They seemed to be very busy. Just like the other guards in the campsite, they were preparing to wash up, cook, and head into the behemoth forest to hunt. They were extremely busy. Looking at the sisters who looked exactly the same as him, Wu Yan's heart skipped a beat. He remembered that the Misaka sisters were clones who learned their daily routines from the learning device. Even though they had their own consciousness, they lacked vitality when they moved. It made him feel uncomfortable and pitiful for the Misaka sisters. But now, the Misaka sisters not only moved in a regular manner, they even learned how to cook, wash up, and even communicate with each other. This was something that would not have happened in the past. After all, the Misaka sisters' consciousness was connected to the Misaka network. If they wanted to say something, they could say it through the Misaka network. It was very convenient. Also, it was very efficient. No matter how long they talked, it only took a single thought. It was as if their minds were truly connected. Under such circumstances, the Misaka sisters who relied on their rationality would naturally choose the most convenient way to communicate. At least, that was the case when there were no outsiders around. Therefore, the Misaka sisters communicated with each other. Almost none. Now, even if there were no outsiders, the Misaka sisters would still communicate with each other in person. All of a sudden they became very humane. They must have begun to realize that some words could not express the feelings in their hearts if they did not say it personally. Isn't this proof that the Misaka sisters are gradually becoming more like normal people? No, it should be said that if it weren't for the fact that the Misaka sisters all looked exactly the same, which made them feel unreal, and their tone was close to zero emotions, which made them sound too robotic, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to think that they were normal people right now. The sisters were also trying their best to live their lives in their own way. Looking at the energetic Misaka sisters, Wu Yen couldn't help but smile. It seems that the sisters will soon be able to think like normal people. Just as Wu Yan's mind, the Misaka sisters who were closest to him finally noticed his presence. They all looked at Wu Yan. Oni-sama. Oh. Misaka 10047 cheered in surprise. This was the Misaka sister who was expressionless, motionless, and speaking to Wu Yan with a monotonous tone. It really is Oni-sama. Oni-sama is still alive. Oh. Misaka 14309 expressed her feelings after not seeing Oni-sama for a long time. This was the Misaka sister who was expressionless and motionless, but she was looking at Wu Yan as if she was looking at God. I heard that Lord Big Brother has already abandoned Big Sisters and ran off to find a new lover. Now that you're here, according to Misaka's judgment, it's very likely that you've been dumped. Misaka 9776 didn't hide the secret information she obtained and gave Lord Big Brother a look of disdain. This was the same Misaka sister who was looking at Wu Yan with disdain, but in reality she was looking at him like he was an animal. According to the secret information given by 9776, Misaka came to a different conclusion. Misaka felt that Oni-sama did not abandon us because he wanted to find a lover, but because he wanted us. Therefore, Misaka 19794 decided to protect Oni-sama and tried to hint Oni-sama. She said she wanted to protect herself, but in the end she gave a sister who was more likely to cause Wu Yan to suffer the fate of being chopped to death. I see. Oni-sama finally decided to make a move on Misaka? Misaka 3399 took a step back and hid the joy in her heart. Misaka believes Oni-sama shouldn't abandon us. If Oni-sama wants to make a move on Misaka, Misaka can share Oni-sama with the sisters. Misaka 10976 decided to help the sisters redeem Oni-sama's impure heart and test the waters. Misaka 10029 seconded. Misaka 19909 seconded. Misaka 16300 seconded. Misaka everyone seconded. As the Misaka sisters' words became more and more ridiculous, Wu Yan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Looking at the Misaka sisters getting closer to him, Wu Yan's mouth twitched. He grabbed Ikaro's hand and ran away in a sorry state. Have a normal person's mind? That's going to be tough. Holding the hand of a shy Ikaros, Wu Yan led her into the big tent shared by the rest of the party. There's a big table in the middle of the tent. Around the table there's a lot of chairs. Counting carefully, it's the exact number of people in Wu Yan's party. There's also a table at the edge of the tent. Other than that there's nothing else in the tent. This tent is used by Wu Yan and the girls when they are having a meal or discussing important matters. Usually the girls would gather here when there's nothing to do but to drink tea, eat snacks and have some fun. A table and chairs are more than enough for that. Currently, Flandra-chan and Yoshino are playing around by the side. Astria and Toka are eating and drinking. The other girls are all sitting on chairs with serious expressions. They look like they're discussing something important. They look like they're discussing something but it's actually Kotori who's sitting at the head of the table. The girls are quietly listening to her with different expressions. Kinohada Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku are nonchalant. Shokuho Misaki and Kurumi have an inexplicable smile on their faces. Chuju and Mikoto's expressions are getting darker and darker. Looking at this scene, for some reason Wu Yan had a bad feeling about this. His intuition is telling him that if he continues to stay here, he won't have a good ending. Wu Yan's expression changed. In the end he chose to believe in his intuition. He pulled Ikaro's hand and quietly turned around. He then tiptoed away from the tent. Just as Wu Yan was about to leave the tent, Ikaros, who has been looking at him with a confused expression, suddenly spoke up. What's wrong, Master? The air suddenly froze. Hearing Ikaros' voice, Wu Yan knew he's in trouble. He quickly channeled his mana to teleport away from this place, but before he could do so, two small hands pressed down on his shoulders. Wu Yan's body trembled. His face stiffened as he slowly turned around. He saw Chuju and Mikoto with bulging veins on their foreheads. Their eyes flashed dangerously as they looked at him. It's that smile that sent a chill down Wu Yan's spine. Gulp. Gulping down his saliva, Wu Yan started to smile obsequiously. What's wrong, madams? If it was any other time, Hinajiku and Mikoto would have blushed the moment Wu Yen said the words "two madams." But this time the girls didn't blush at all. Instead, their faces darkened. Nothing. Chuju and Mikoto spoke up at the same time. We just want you to introduce your new sisters to us. Wu Yan's vision darkened. There's only one thought left in his mind. It's over. Chapter 1008. Introduce the new sisters to you guys. That's all. Wu Yen screamed in his mind when he saw Chuju and Mikoto's gloomy faces. This isn't just all. It's obvious that Chuju and Mikoto already know about Natsuki, Nagisa, and Kanon. No, it's more accurate to say that all the girls know about them. No wonder Kotori was the only one talking while the girls were listening. Kotori was the one who told them all about what he did during the devouring blood raid. She must have emphasized what happened to Natsuki, Nagisa, Kanon, and the others. Wu Yen glared at Kotori. What he got in return was a sweet smile. She closed one of her eyes at Wu Yen and giggled with a sweet voice that only a little sister would have. Do your best, Oniai-chan. Wu Yen burst into tears at this moment. Kanon aside, it was Kotori who instigated Nagisa to throw herself at him, and Natsuki was also Kotori who told him to conquer Natsuki in order to prove the ability of the Yao Beast mark. Although he did develop feelings for them, Kotori was the main culprit. Why did he have to swallow the bitter fruit? Wu Yen gnashed his teeth as he glared at Kotori, who was smiling sweetly at him. He sneered. Kotori didn't care about Wu Yan's sneer. Shokuho Misaki's face turned pale and she shuddered. She looked at Kotori with pity in her eyes. Back then, Arjisama also added insult to injury, and a certain wolf took revenge on her. He attacked her tent in the middle of the night and gave her a humiliating performance. Looks like Kotori won't be able to escape this. Of course. It doesn't matter when this humiliating performance befalls Kotori. Now he has to deal with Hinajiku and Mikoto, these two vinegar buckets. No, it's not just Chuju and Mikoto who are jealous, there's a huge jealous one here. Is what they said true? Shido, amidst the roar of the battle cry, a voice rang out. Toka shot towards Wu Yen like an arrow. Her expression was ferocious. Wu Yen was startled. Just when Wu Yen thought Toka was going to denounce him, Toka said something. Did you have a child with another woman? Before he could finish his words, everyone on the scene fell to the ground with a series of lilipala sounds. Kotori. This time, it was Wu Yan's turn to look at Kotori. But Kotori was stunned. When did I say that he had a child with another woman? A question mark appeared on 10 Fragrance's forehead. She blinked her large purple eyes. I didn't say it was Kotori, it was Kurumi. Kurumi? Everyone looked at Kurumi in shock. Sensing everyone's gaze, Kurumi tilted her head and smiled. I think it's more interesting this way. Wu Yen and the girls were speechless. Toka pulled on Wu Yan's sleeve innocently and looked at him with big curious eyes. By the way, Shido, what is having a child? His breath got stuck in his chest and he almost died from not being able to catch his breath. While the girls were trying their best to hold back their laughter, Wu Yen forced a smile. If you don't know what having a child is, why did you yell at me? Toka was stunned, she punched her palm. Oh yeah, why did I yell at you? Ahaha. The girls couldn't hold back their laughter any longer. They giggled and Wu Yen couldn't help but feel a little annoyed by them. Ahem. After suppressing their laughter, Chuju and Mikoto turned serious and looked at Wu Yen. Aren't you going to explain it to us? Their voices are still low but the gloominess on their faces disappeared. Only seriousness remained. Wu Yen released a sigh of relief and he secretly thanked Kurumi and Toka. However, when Wu Yen looked at Kurumi with gratitude, she gave him a beautiful smile. Wu Yen flinched and he was surprised. Could it be that Kurumi deliberately told Juxiang that in order to help him? Wu Yen couldn't come up with an answer for the time being. Wu Yen shook his head and looked at Chuju and Mikoto. He smiled awkwardly. You heard it from Kotori, right? Then they should know that they are in my body and have fallen into a deep sleep. They probably won't come out in a short period of time. According to Natsuki, they don't want to come out to meet the girls for now. Of course Wu Yen can't say that. He used a vague excuse to brush them off. When Natsuki, Nagisa, and Kanon are mentally prepared, he will let them meet up with each other. The girls seemed to have thought of something and they looked at each other. They stopped talking about the introduction, including Chuju and Mikoto. Well, even though they looked a little unhappy, that's right. Only Shokuho Misaki, after looking at everyone around her, suddenly started crying. Little Yen, you're such a bad person. We have to deal with the people in the camp and plan for the future. Our sisters even go hunting in the giant beast forest every day. It's normal for us to get injured if we don't do well. But you? The atmosphere tensed up again after hearing Shokuho Misaki's words. Not to mention Hinajiku and Mikoto, even Kinuhata Sai, Frenda, Astria, Kurumi, and Takitsubu Riku, who didn't care about this matter, looked at Wu Yan with an uncomfortable expression. Wu Yan's heart clenched as he felt guilty for what he did to Wu Yan. Indeed, as Shokuho Misaki said, the girls in the camp must be worried about the Spalier world every day. Under such circumstances he lived the life he wanted. He was a jerk. Wu Yan looked apologetic. He lowered his head and covered his face with his bangs. The girls panicked when they saw Wu Yan's reaction. Their dissatisfaction disappeared and was replaced with heartache. This is what girls are like. They are kind and considerate girls who care about Wu Yan. No matter what Wu Yan did, no matter how much injustice they feel, they will still act with Wu Yan as their everything. No matter how unreasonable it is, it's all the same. Yan. Hinajiku and Mikoto came to Wu Yan's side. They wanted to say something but they couldn't bring themselves to say it. They looked at Shokuho Misaki with pleading eyes. Shokuho Misaki gave them a confident smile and suddenly changed the topic. "Allah, my bag seems to be a bit broken." When he said that, everyone was stunned. Wu Yan was the same. However, he miraculously reacted and quickly replied. "I remember there is a shop in the supply town that sells good bags. I will buy one for you next time." Shokuho Misaki immediately smiled. Unlike the professional smiles from before, this smile came from the bottom of Shokuho Misaki's heart. Wu Yan understood why Shokuho Misaki suddenly blamed him. Shokuho Misaki didn't blame him for leaving Silveria's matters to them. She was just using this as an excuse to act coquettishly. That's right. She's acting coquettishly. Maybe Shokuho Misaki is worried about not being able to be as intimate with Wu Yan as she used to be. That's why she's acting like a spoiled child in front of him. At the end of the day, Shokuho Misaki is just a normal girl. The girls seemed to have realized what was going on. They looked at each other and smiled. "My clothes are getting old too. I wonder if the supply town sells go tie? Ah, Era, I need a hair accessory too. Astria wants to eat cake." "Oh, me too." "Flan wants cake too." The girl's noisy voice echoed in Wu Yan's ears, but in Wu Yan's ears, this noisy voice sounded like the most beautiful music in the world. His heart melted. Chapter 1009. The Behemoth Forest was a natural treasure trove. This was something that everyone in the Spalier world, even ordinary people who didn't train, knew. As a paradise for magical beasts, the Behemoth Forest had an inexhaustible supply of magical beasts. This was because the Behemoth Forest was extremely vast, so the magical beast's capacity was also relatively high. More importantly, magical beasts' reproductive ability was generally much higher than that of humans. Humans hunted magical beasts and used their skin, flesh, and torsos to create armaments, medicines, and other resources that were beneficial to the development of the Spalier world. This wasn't something that happened in a day or two. It was something that humans had been doing ever since they gained consciousness and knew how to train. But even so, until now, after who knows how many tens of thousands of years, the Behemoth Forest still had an abundance of magical beasts. There had never been a magical beast species that went extinct. Even if there was a magical beast species that became rare for a period of time, it would recover after a few years. From this, it could be seen that the Behemoth Forest's magical beasts' reproductive ability and capacity were extremely high. Not only that, but there were also all kinds of heavenly treasures in the Behemoth Forest that could be used for all kinds of purposes. Some of the real treasures would even attract countless experts to fight over them. It was also something that had caused a bloody storm in the Spalier world before. Therefore, the Behemoth Forest's position in the Spalier world was extremely important, so important that it couldn't be replaced. The Spalier world had once given birth to 4 gods, and these 4 gods had relied on the help of the divine power. Suddenly they had reached the level of life and finally evolved, reaching the true peak. Unfortunately, the disappearance of the divine power had caused the Spalier world to lose all gods. They would forever lose god-level experts. If the disappearance of the divine power had caused the Spalier world to no longer have god-level experts, then the disappearance of the Behemoth Forest would very likely cause the Spalier world's martial power level to plummet to the very end. They might even lose demigod experts or even level 9 experts. This was not an exaggeration. After all, not everyone was so talented. Although demigods were powerful, they must have consumed some treasures that could increase their power and break through their current level. Only then would they be able to reach this level in their lifetime. They would only be able to become demigods smoothly. Once the Spalier world lost the Behemoth Forest and these heavenly treasures, it would be much more difficult to break through to the next level. In the end, there might not even be anyone who could break through to the next level. In addition, equipment and tools and tools resources, they would also. Therefore, the behemoth forest was. In the past, there were humans who wanted to occupy the behemoth forest and obtain all the behemoth forest's resources. However, all of them failed in the end because the behemoth forest was too unsuitable for humans to live in. Those who had such thoughts were caught off guard. Since then, the behemoth forest had completely become the world of magical beasts. Although humans would go there every day to hunt, no one had ever built a place to live in. Until today, in a corner between the behemoth forest's outer and inner regions, there was a rather wide open space. The open space was very ordinary. The terrain was flat without any slope. It was surrounded by many huge trees. Other than the trees, there was nothing else on the open space. There was only flat ground made of rocks. At this moment, on the flat ground, there were figures scattered around in twos and threes. They were looking at the open space as if they were sizing something up. It's Wu Yan's group. Standing in front of the girls, Wu Yan looked around the open space with a frown. He then looked at Shokuho Misaki. Are you sure you want to build a base here? Wu Yan's wine-red eyes were serious. He said worriedly. Don't forget, this is the behemoth forest. It's because this is the behemoth forest that I want to build a base here. Shokuho Misaki smiled, but her eyes were serious. In any case, the sisters will come here every day to hunt for resources and earn experience points. In that case, instead of finding another place for them and having them come here every day, why don't we just let them use the giant beast forest as their base? But won't that be dangerous? Mikoto was worried. This is demonic beast territory. What if we get surrounded by demonic beast? Or if a demonic beast that's too high level attacks us, what do we do? Also, this place isn't suitable for living. We need food and water first. Also, the Beast King might be here. Misaki-san, don't worry so much. Shokuho Misaki smiled bitterly at Mikoto's nagging. How can a demonic beast horde break through the defense line of 20,000 sisters? High-level demonic beasts won't be able to come to this place. As for food and water, it's a big problem for the people of the Spalier world. But Xiaoyan has a system. I'm sure it won't be hard for her to find items that can provide her with food and water, right? What if something unexpected happens? Like last time, didn't you also say that the sisters would be fine here? But then the Beast King appeared and the demonic beasts went berserk. The sisters are still trapped here. We can't guarantee that this won't happen again, Mikoto said stubbornly. Shokuho Misaki shook her head helplessly at Mikoto's stubbornness. She looked at Wu Yan for help. Wu Yan looked at her helplessly. It's okay, Mikoto? Holding her hand, he shook his head. What you said makes sense, but Misaki-san's idea is correct. Instead of letting the sisters wander around outside, why don't we just use this place as our base? It'll be more convenient. But... Mikoto opened her mouth worriedly. Every sister is her favorite. She doesn't want to see them get hurt. After all, in her heart she has always felt that she owes them. Shokuho Misaki, who has always been against her, didn't argue with her on this matter. Don't worry. Wu Yan consoled her with a smile. Once the base is completed, I will set up the highest level defensive barrier here. I will also set up some defensive spells. It just so happens that I have obtained some powerful ancient weapons in this dungeon world. I will use them to defend this base. Even if a real Beast King appears, it will be able to hold them off for a while. Moreover, we can also set up a teleportation point in the base. If something really happens, we can rush back at any time. Besides, we won't always be outside. This is not only our sister's base of operations, but also our base of operations. Mikoto fell silent. The other girls didn't speak either. They waited for Mikoto's decision. If Mikoto insists on not setting up a base in the behemoth forest, then they will compromise. As if she sensed their thoughts, Mikoto's brown eyes revealed a helpless expression. She nodded and agreed. Seeing this, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Don't be fooled by Mikoto's carefree and valiant appearance. In certain aspects, she's even more fragile than a normal girl. She's also terrifyingly stubborn in certain aspects. If she really gets into a fight, even Wu Yan can't do anything about it unless it's under the blanket. Then how should we build it? This base. The girls all looked at Wu Yan. Wu Yan scratched his face and frowned. If it's just building a base, there are many ways to do so in the system. However, considering the sisters' safety and external defense, the base's level can't be too low. It might even need to be equipped with some defensive measures. If that's the case, the points? If it's just the points, we can solve a lot of the problems here. Shokuho Misaki took out a space ring and handed it to Wu Yan. The sisters' efforts weren't in vain. There are quite a few monster carcasses, magic crystals and eggs inside. We should be able to exchange them for item points, ability points and summoning points. As for equipment points, there's nothing we can do about it. If it's just equipment points, it won't be a problem. We don't need that many equipment points anyway. Wu Yan smiled. Let's go back and exchange everything we need. Then let the sisters build it here. The girls nodded. Chapter 10:10. Behemoth Forest Campsite. 10 days have passed since Wu Yan returned to the Spalier world from the Bloodlust Rampage dungeon. In these 10 days, the Behemoth Forest campsite has passed by in an unexpectedly peaceful manner. It's not as chaotic as it was a few days ago. People died, people turned into monsters of unknown origin, causing everyone to panic. The current camp was like a sunny day after a storm. Other than some of the usual small fights and schemes, there was basically nothing major happening. This could be considered another kind of tranquility. It allowed Pelosi, who had been on tenterhooks, to have time to let go of the sense of urgency in his heart and let out a sigh of relief. Of course, that's only for Wu Yan's group. In these 10 days, something major has happened in the campsite. It's the appointment of a new person in charge. This is to be expected. Pelosi's abilities are outstanding. Even though it's tiring to manage the campsite by himself, he still manages the campsite in a disciplined manner. However, Pelosi is still a member of the Lori family. If he's the only person in charge of the campsite, then the Ailu Empire's campsite will become the Lori family's campsite. Even if the Lori family is willing to see this happen, the Saito and Ladine families aren't willing to see this happen. Thus, halfway through the 10 days, the Ailu Empire's royal family finally gave the order to appoint a new person in charge of the campsite. From the Saito family and the Ladine family, he chose one person from each family to come here and work with Pelosi to manage the camp. As one of the three great families of the Ailu Empire, it's reasonable for the royal family to choose someone from one of the three great families to be in charge of the campsite. The other high-ranking members of the other families also expected this to happen. However, they're still somewhat dissatisfied. During this period of time, in order to be chosen as the person in charge of the campsite, they've done a lot of things in the dark. They've tried to bribe and curry favor. There were even cases where they would assassinate those who met the conditions. Now that they had received such a result, one could imagine the anger in these people's hearts. Some of them even complained to the imperial family, saying that the imperial family was biased towards the three great clans, which attracted a lot of ridicule. The reason why the three great clans were called the three great clans was because their strength and ability far exceeded the average clans in the Ailu Empire. Gaining the recognition of the Ailu Empire's royal family was like an emperor arranging for someone to do something important. Normally he would choose someone he trusted, someone whose position was close to his own. There was no reason for him to choose a small official. Therefore, these unreasonable people were all choked back by the imperial family's words. If you want to be in charge, that's fine too. Just drag one of the three great clans down from their position. It was a simple sentence with a reasonable answer. This time no one else responded. What a joke. They could still fight for the position of the person in charge, but if they were to go against the people from the three great clans, it would be strange if their clan's resources were not completely wiped out. Those who couldn't be chosen were vexed, while those who were chosen were also vexed. This time, the person in charge sent by the Saito and Ladine clans weren't strangers. On the contrary, they were people Wu Yan was very familiar with. Bingling and Bishi. Peak Type 8 powerhouses were not cabbages that could be found anywhere. Even with the three great clans, each clan would only have 2 or 3 Peak Type 8 powerhouses, and these Peak Type 8 powerhouses. These Peak Rank 8 experts were either the patriarch of the three great clans or the second in command. They couldn't possibly let the patriarch be the person in charge, right? What would happen to their own clans if they did? Therefore, the camp's second in command had to be sent out. Unfortunately, the second in command of the Saito clan, Marcus, became a traitor and a monster. He was killed by Wu Yan in front of so many people. The second in command of the Ladine clan, Andrew, was also killed without a word for offending Wu Yan. How could the two great clans have any extra peak rank 8 experts to be their second in command? Maybe they could send out an advanced rank 8 expert. Even if they don't have a peak rank 8 expert, they should at least have an advanced rank 8 expert. They did have some, but these advanced rank 8 experts weren't qualified to be the camp's overseers. At least, they weren't qualified to be the camp's overseers. The other clans sent out their second in command, but they sent someone of average rank. Wouldn't that be a joke? As a result, the two clans had no choice but to send out the next pillars of their clans. Bing Ling and Bishi, if there were no accidents, they would be the next patriarchs of their respective clans. In terms of status, they were qualified. In terms of strength, they weren't strong enough. However, it wouldn't be a problem to send a few powerful guards to protect them. However, the strength of a peak 7th Order warrior was still too weak. If they were to walk out of the Saito family and Ladin family, the two families would have to pay a heavy price to raise Bing Ling and Baishi's strength to the 8th Order warrior level. That was why the Saito family and Ladin family had to pay a heavy price to raise Bing Ling and Baishi's strength to the 8th Order. Two rank 8 experts under the age of 25. The future patriarchs of their respective clans. These two titles were more than enough to be the camp's overseer. It's worth mentioning that since the Saito clan's second-in-command and future second-in-command were destroyed by Wu Yan, some of the guards brought by Bing Ling were clamoring to get revenge for their clan. Along with other rank 8 experts, they formed a group and charged towards Wu Yan's area. In the end, in less than 10 minutes, these people were all thrown out one by the furious girls. Including Ikaros. After the previous incident where he acted like a spoiled brat, Wu Yan seemed to have found his conscience. During this period of time, he showered each of the girls with a fiery love. It's as if he's holding them in the palm of his hand, afraid that they'll fall, afraid that they'll melt in his mouth. All of the girls enjoyed an exceedingly mushy yet comforting tenderness. It wasn't easy for the girls to wait for Wu Yan's long-awaited love other than rolling in the sheets. In the end, under the taunts and ridicule of these annoying guys, Wu Yan's face that always had a sweet smile on it turned dark and gloomy. How can the girls who have enjoyed his love and care stand by and watch this? Even someone like Ikaros couldn't hold back her anger, let alone the other girls. It can only be said that these people don't look at the almanac when they leave the house. They deserve to be F***ed. After this incident spread, the respect the people in the camp have for Wu Yan's group increased. With this group of people who aren't afraid of anything, even if the next emperor of the royal family came, they would still be fine. Living together with them is no different from living with a tiger. After all, no one wants to offend this group of unscrupulous people and bring trouble to themselves. Because of this, the people in the camp kept a respectful distance from Wu Yan's group. They didn't notice that in the forest where Wu Yan's group was staying, quite a number of Misaka girls didn't even come back from the behemoth forest at night. More and more of them came back. Therefore, those who weren't chosen as the person in charge were vexed. Those who were chosen were vexed, the guards in the camp were vexed, the girls were vexed, even Wu Yan was vexed at this moment. Sigh. Sitting on the bed in his tent, Wu Yan looked at his personal list floating in front of him. Only he and the girls can see it. Wu Yan let out a sigh. In order to build a safe and secure base for the 20,000 Misaka sisters, Wu Yan spent quite a bit of his fortune on this project. Right now, all the items that needed to be exchanged had been exchanged and handed over to the Misaka sisters. They were starting to use these items to build their own base. He believed that with the convenience of the system's items, a base that could accommodate 20 to 30,000 people would be built in a few months' time. Because of this, Wu Yan's equipment points, item points, and even ability points are almost empty. This is even after adding in the points that the girls obtained from hunting. Otherwise, Wu Yan's points wouldn't be enough. Wu Yan pursed his lips when he saw that the system didn't seem to have any points on the 3 options. Should I hand over the things in the ring of gold as well? Wu Yan muttered to himself as he looked at the 4th point on the system list. It's also the only point that he hasn't used yet, summoning points. Chapter 10-11. Most of his equipment points, item points, and ability points were used to construct the base. Wu Yan only had summoning points that he did not use to construct the base. After all, summoning points are used to summon characters from the instance dungeon to his side. Unlike the other 3 types of points, when building a base he would have to use a little of it. Once the base gets bigger, the amount of points would be too much to bear. If it wasn't for the ring of gold, he would be considered poor right now. Among the 4 types of points, Wu Yan had the most item points. But now, he has almost used up all his item points along with his ability points and equipment points. On the other hand, his summoning points, which weren't that impressive in the first place, were kept intact. Adding in the spoils of the Misaka sisters, his summoning points increased instead of decreasing. Wu Yan crossed his arms in front of his chest as he stared at the only summoning point that he had not used up. Since the other 3 points were almost used up, he might as well use the summoning point as well. The moment he thought of this, he could not stop himself. Logically speaking, Wu Yan, who had just realized that he owed the girls, should not summon new characters to his side. Natsuki, Nagisa, and Kanon were still in his body and had no intention of meeting the girls. This was a big problem. Summoning new characters on the basis of this problem. Without a doubt, it would only add fuel to the fire and make the young girls really angry. Based on the feelings the girls have for him, this bit of resentment would have to be pacified sooner or later. However, Wu Yan, who understood the hardships the girls went through, didn't want to see any trace of unhappiness on their faces. This is also one of the reasons why he dotes on the girls so much these days. Even if he was tempted, Wu Yan shouldn't be summoning any new characters at this point in time. But this time Wu Yan really wanted to summon new characters. Because he wanted to summon someone. Not a new character but an old acquaintance. He opened the summoning list and dragged his finger across the illusory list. From an outsider's perspective, it looked like he was gesturing something in the air. But in Wu Yan's eyes, following the movement of his fingers, the system list was also changing, allowing him to find his target. Yakumo Purple, a powerful monster from the land of fantasy. One of the founders of the fantasy village. Along with the previous generations of Boli witches, she maintains the Boli Great Barrier. She is an indispensable existence in the fantasy village. Summoning points, 1 million. Indeed, the person that Wu Yan wanted to summon was Yakumo Yukari, whom he had temporarily summoned with the help of the system. Even though he only spent a week with Yukari, he didn't forget about this black-bellied, shrewd person who took care of them like a big sister at critical moments. She even helped them solve their problems. Other than a lot of troublesome big monsters, Wu Yan and co didn't forget about her. Wu Yan summoned Yukari because he wanted her to help him defeat the Beast King. Unlike the other girls, Wu Yan summoned Yukari after careful consideration. He only summoned Yukari because he wanted her to be his companion. To put it bluntly, summoning Purple was a bit like summoning a fighter, a tool to help him solve his problems. Of course, in such a critical situation he had no choice. If he didn't summon Purple, not only Wu Yan himself, but also the girls might die in the hands of the Beast King. Wu Yan had been using this excuse to comfort himself. Who would have thought that Purple could use her ability to extend the time she spent in the Spalier world and temporarily stay with Wu Yan and the others? This was really unexpected. What was even more unexpected was that this intelligent and shrewd big monster had carefully taken care of everyone in Wu Yan's group during that short period of time. To be honest, Wu Yan didn't believe that Yukari would treat him and the others as her companions just because she became his summon. With Yukari's shrewdness and intelligence, there's no way she would protect someone she just met for the first time. At most, she would lend a helping hand when she felt like it. If she really put her heart and soul into it, let alone outsiders, even those who know Yukari and Gensokyo wouldn't be able to make her do so. But the result was that during that period of time, Purple not only got along well with them, but also played the role of a big sister and took good care of them. Even when the summoning time was up, Purple left a drop of her blood for Wu Yan. Even when she left, she used her own way to protect Wu Yan. Obviously they had only known each other for a week, so there was no need for Purple to go to this extent. Wu Yan didn't know whether Purple had her own considerations and calculations, or she had really developed feelings for them in this short period of time, but the reluctant smile on her face before she left was definitely not fake. Based on this alone, even if Purple had her own calculations, Wu Yan was willing to fall into it. He believed that the other girls must have thought the same. Now, the time since Purple left them was about a month in the Spalier world. However, for Wu Yan, who had been to the Sword and Saber Dominion and the Blood Frenzy after Purple left, it had been a few years. He also missed the sage monster who was sometimes bad and sometimes good, sometimes evil and sometimes shameless. Moreover, if he summoned Purple, the girls wouldn't have any objections. She was the best summoner. With these thoughts flashing through his mind, Wu Yan immediately decided to summon Purple. However, when he saw the words 1 million summoning points, his eyebrows couldn't help but twitch. The system had been updated once, and after that update the exchange value of points had also changed. A small number of points could have a greater value. Take the summoning points for example. The original 10,000 summoning points were roughly equivalent to 1,000 summoning points now. The value had shrunk by 10 times. In other words, in the past, the summoning points needed to summon Purple was at least 10 million summoning points. Even now, it still needs 1 million summoning points. As expected of a monster, a demigod. Wu Yan smiled bitterly as he wiped the sweat off his forehead. He didn't use his summoning points, but he only has about 40,000 to 50,000 summoning points. Including the Misaka sisters' summoning points, he only has about 100,000 summoning points. 100,000 summoning points is only 10% of the summoning points. Looks like I have to use my trump card. With a wave of his hand, a crimson spatial ripple appeared in front of Wu Yan. The ripple then spat out a golden ring. His consciousness entered the ring of gold and he started searching for treasures that can be exchanged for summoning points. After about half an hour of searching, he finally gathered 1,000,000 summoning points. However, the items in the ring of gold that can be exchanged for summoning points are now less than 10% of the items in the ring that can be exchanged for summoning points. However, it was worth it to be able to summon purple. After confirming that he had enough summoning points, Wu Yan clicked on summon. Buzz. A dazzling white light rose up within the tent. Unfortunately, no matter how blinding the white light is, Wu Yan didn't pay attention to it. His gaze pierced through the white light and was attracted by a beautiful figure. It's a girl who's dressed in a weird way. She wore a pink and white princess dress with pleated edges. The front part of her body had a Taoist robe engraved with the 8 trigrams. Her golden hair was slightly curled, and there were a few small red butterfly knots at the end of her hair. She wore a lace round hat on her head, and the front of the hat also had a red ribbon in the shape of a butterfly knot, which set off the girl's beauty. At this time, the girl was holding a parasol in one hand and a paper fan in the other. Her eyes were closed and her noble and beautiful face looked peaceful under the white light. It was as if the girl was supposed to sleep under the bright light. There was a mysterious aura around her that made it impossible for people to ignore her presence. This girl is Yakumo Yukari. After a few years, the shrewd and intelligent demon sage was still as beautiful as if she had returned from a painting. The faintly discernible trace of a powerful aura that made one's heart tremble seemed to be telling the world, "Don't worry. She Yakumo Yukari has returned." Chapter 10-12. Not only did the glaring white light fill the entire tent, even the outside of the tent flickered with rays of light, which were exceptionally intense. However, in Wu Yan's eyes, no matter how strong the white light was, it was not as dazzling as the beautiful girl in front of him. For a moment he was stunned. Sensing Wu Yan's gaze, Yukari's eyelids fluttered. She slowly opened her eyes, revealing a pair of purple crystal-like eyes in the air. They were also exposed to the intense white light, adding a touch of color to the pure white light. Wu Yan, who was standing in front of Amethyst, naturally met Amethyst's gaze. For a moment, Wu Yan did not dare to look Amethyst in the eye. He had the urge to move his eyes away. His heart pounded faster and faster, causing Wu Yan to smile bitterly. Maybe Yukari woke up from her stupor because her eyes regained some life. However, when Yukari saw Wu Yan standing in front of her, she blanked out for a bit. Isn't my summoning time up? Why do I see Xiao Yan? Wu Yan flinched when he heard this. Then he remembered that if he didn't enter a certain dungeon world, the time in those dungeons would stop flowing. In other words, for Wu Yan and the others, they had been separated from Amethyst for a while. However, for Amethyst, she only closed her eyes for a moment. It was not even a second. When she opened her eyes again, he was in front of her again. Amethyst's consciousness. She should still be in the moment when he left, right? Thinking of this, Wu Yan smiled bitterly again. If he was in Amethyst's place, he would be separated from her 1 second and then reunited with her the next second. No matter how strong he was, he would not be able to react. Unfortunately, Wu Yan underestimated Amethyst. As if she recalled something, the confusion in her eyes faded away, replaced by her usual shrewdness. Looking at Wu Yan, who was standing in front of her, Yukari smiled. She smiled helplessly. "It seems I was summoned by you again, Xiao Yan." As expected of the legendary sage demons. Even if he didn't personally experience it, he was able to understand the situation just by looking at the current situation. It was truly amazing. Even Shokuho Misaki wouldn't be able to compare to this level of intelligence. A trace of admiration rose in his heart. Seeing Amethyst's helpless expression, Wu Yan couldn't help but smile. No matter how smart she was, she would still feel awkward when she was saying goodbye 1 second and then reappearing the next. Wu Yan held back his laughter and waved at Amethyst. "Long time no see, Amethyst." "Long time no see." Amethyst rolled her eyes at Wu Yan. "It's only been a blink of an eye for me. But for me, I haven't seen you in years." Wu Yan giggled and he pounced at Yukari with open arms. "It's great to see you again." Just as Wu Yan was about to embrace Amethyst, a paper fan hit Wu Yan on the head and knocked him down. "Era?" Yukari put away her paper fan and looked at Wu Yan, who was howling in pain on the ground. She said with a smile that isn't a smile. "His strength has increased by quite a bit and even his courage has grown by quite a bit. Are you finally going to target me?" You misunderstood, Amethyst." Wu Yan held his head and quickly stood up. "This is an action derived from the joy of our reunion." "Is that so?" Yukari blinked and she laughed at Wu Yan's intentions. Aren't you using the joy of our reunion to take advantage of me? Of course not. Wu Yan awkwardly scratched his cheeks. He felt like there's nothing he can hide from Yukari's eyes. He couldn't hide his thoughts from those deep purple eyes. He could only helplessly say it out loud. Anyway, welcome back, Amethyst. Hearing this, the inexplicable smile in Amethyst's eyes slowly disappeared. The expression on her face relaxed a lot and became gentler. From the day you summoned me, little Yen, I knew I'd be at your beck and call for the rest of my life. Amethyst's voice slowly drifted out from under the fan as she skillfully waved the paper fan in her hand to cover the area below her nose. It's not a good thing to be targeted by you. You're joking. Wu Yen shook his head with a wry smile. If you don't want to, who can order you around? The corner of Amethyst's mouth twitched and her eyes turned serious. I didn't believe it before, but now. Frowning slightly, Violet's tone became rather displeased. Without any self-awareness, his life was taken away and merged with someone else. Even his own body had to be summoned here and there. If such a situation had happened, it wouldn't be strange if something else were to happen. Amethyst's annoyance reverberated in Wu Yan's ears. Wu Yan felt resentful. He knew Amethyst wasn't blaming him for summoning her around. She might have when they first met, but after spending some time together, she should understand that he wasn't the kind of person who would force girls to do things he didn't want them to do. What Amethyst was upset about was the feeling of being unable to control herself. As the founder of the fantasy village and a sage of demons with the power of the realm, Amethyst's strength had long reached the transcendent realm. It was difficult to find someone who could compare with her. Amethyst had always been confident that even though she wasn't the strongest in the fantasy village, the strongest person wouldn't be able to do anything to her. Despite having such power, Yukari was still summoned by the system. She was robbed of her life and assimilated into Wu Yan's body. This feeling of not being under her own control and being at the mercy of the system for someone as prideful as Yukari, this must be a very uncomfortable feeling. Wu Yan even suspected that Amethyst had used the power of the realm to resist the system's summon time and let him stay in the Spalier world. It wasn't because she was interested in this world, but because she was resisting the fact that she couldn't control herself. She was Amethyst. How could she be obedient and let herself be at the mercy of others? As Wu Yan said, without Amethyst's permission, no one could order her around. Even if she was stronger than Amethyst, she would find a chance to fight back. Even if she couldn't win, she would at least destroy her opponent's car. Amethyst may seem approachable, but she was still the sage of demons who made all demons and even living creatures tremble. The trace of admiration in his heart gradually turned into admiration. Looking at Amethyst's expressionless face and dissatisfied eyes, Wu Yan didn't mince his words. Amethyst, you really are an amazing person. Amethyst's pretty face was slightly stunned. She couldn't help but smile. Little Yen is amazing too. I'm very happy to have met someone like you. Is that so? Wu Yan shrugged and he continued with a smile. What about the reunion hug? Zi's smiling face collapsed. She resisted the urge to roll her eyes and felt all kinds of annoyance. All right. Take it as a gift from an older sister to a younger brother. Younger brother? Wu Yan retorted. How could it be younger brother? I'm already in my 20s. You're only in your 20s? We've already... Before she could finish her sentence, Zi's voice seemed to be stuck in her throat and stopped abruptly. A mischievous grin appeared on Wu Yan's face. Already what? Why don't you continue? Amethyst glanced at Wu Yan and snorted. I'm already 17. 17? Who are you kidding? Shaking his head, Wu Yan laughed mischievously. Then I'm older. How could it be a gift from an older sister to a younger brother? It should be a brother's love for a younger sister he hasn't seen in a long time. Little sister. Even Violet's mouth couldn't help but twitch after being called little sister. Seeing Amethyst's uneasiness, Wu Yan smiled proudly. He opened his arms and hugged Amethyst. In the next moment, a burst of fragrance and softness entered Wu Yan's nose and mind at the same time. Amethyst's expression was somewhat helpless. But this time she didn't resist Wu Yan's hug. She just patted his shoulder and smiled warmly. Chapter 10:13. Behemoth Forest Camp. Inside the tent, the girls who gathered together every day were discussing something. To be more precise, Choju, Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, and Kotori were discussing something. Kurumi was leisurely sipping her tea. She didn't participate in the discussion at all. Astria and Toko were having a competition of eating. Flandre-chan was cheering for Astria while Yoshino was cheering for Toka. The four of them were having a good time, but they kept their voices low so as not to disturb Chuju, Mikoto, and the others. Astria, Toka, Flandre-chan, and Yoshino knew there was nothing they could do in a serious discussion like this. They wanted to help, but they weren't strong enough to do so. The only thing they could do was to try their best not to disturb the other girls. When the time comes, they will do their best to help. As for the rest of the time, they just need to be themselves. This was what Chuju, Mikoto, and the others told them. Kinohara Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were the same. Compared to Astria and the others, these three used to be Black Ops in Academy City. Logically speaking, this kind of discussion is nothing out of the ordinary for them. But when it comes to discussion, they are better at taking action. That's why they usually don't participate in the girls' discussion unless it's absolutely necessary. They will wait until the girls have something to do and they will take over the task. Their respective tasks are well distributed. Because of this, every time the girls discuss something, it's usually Chuju, Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, Kotori, or Kurumi. That's it. At this time, Chuju and the others were discussing the Behemoth Forest base. Under Wu Yan's control, all the materials needed to build the base have been gathered. The sisters started bringing these materials to the base to build the base. The girls, on the other hand, are busy building the base. His role was to supervise the work. If he noticed any problems, he would discuss it with him. Of course, although the girls were discussing the matters of the base, it wasn't because of any problems. They were just estimating when it would be completed. Also, if anyone notices a problem, they will bring it up to discuss it. It had to be said that the items in the system were miraculous. A base that could accommodate 20 to 30,000 people, if built according to the normal construction process, might not even be completed in a year and a half, but with the items in the system, it saved them a lot of trouble. In just a few days' time, with the help of the system's tools and the efforts of his sisters, the vast base was now almost 1/5 complete. This is even taking into account the defensive measures Wu Yan prepared for the base. Or else, it wouldn't even take a day to build a shelter. In other words, after the girls concluded their discussion, Kotori tapped on a design on the table. Will it take about a month for the base to be completely completed? With the sisters' efficiency and teamwork, we should be able to shorten the time. Shokuho Misaki brushed her blonde hair. It was a normal action, but it gave her a different kind of charm. But it's better to make it longer than shorter. The girls all nodded in agreement, but Hinajiku seemed a little confused. There are only about 10,000 sisters who participated in the construction of the base, right? Why don't we let the other 10,000 sisters participate as well? We should be able to shorten the time by half, right? That won't do. Chuju was the one who replied. Mikoto was the one who replied. If all the sisters are not in the camp, it will definitely attract the attention of others. When the time comes, our base in the giant beast forest will be discovered. That is not a good thing. That's right. Shokuho Misaki nodded. Her eyes flashed with wisdom. The fewer people who know, the safer the sisters will be in the Behemoth Forest. We already have to deal with the demonic beasts in the first place. If we let other people harass us, it will be much more dangerous than the demonic beasts. At least the demonic beasts will only charge forward while the people will hide and ambush us. Hinajiku was relieved. The trio who had been quietly listening to their conversation nodded their heads. They had worked in the Black Ops before. Naturally, the Black Ops wasn't a department that could be exposed to the public. They had done a lot of sneak attacks, including the seemingly honest Takitsubu Riku. Then let's wait for another month. We'll leave the base in a month. Chuju slammed the table and crossed her arms. Even I think we're being too thick-skinned by staying in other people's territory. Mikoto bitterly smiled. She seems to have the same idea. Shokuho Misaki, Kotori, and Kurumi didn't agree, but they didn't say anything. They don't want to stay here either. It's better to have their own territory. Mikoto glanced at Chuju, Shokuho Misaki, Kotori, and Kurumi. Her gaze stopped on Kotori. Mikoto hesitated for a moment before asking Kotori. Hey Kotori, what kind of girls are the three girls in Yan's body? The girls were stunned. Shokuho Misaki was the first to laugh. She covered her mouth and started teasing. Era Misaki-san, do you care that much? Who cares? Mikoto jumped up from her chair, her face flushed red as she screamed, What woman is he looking for outside? It has nothing to do with me. Misaki-san, what you said isn't true at all. Shokuho Misaki smiled meaningfully. Don't tell me you're not jealous that those three girls can become Xiao Yan's familiars and become one with him. Of course not. Mikoto said without hesitation. Everyone could see the change in her eyes. Mikoto wasn't the only one who felt that way. Everyone else felt the same way when they heard Shokuho Misaki's words. Jealousy? You? Flandre-chan seemed to have lost all her energy. She said what the other girls were thinking. Flandre-chan wants to become Oniai-san's familiar too. That way she can be with Oniai-san forever. Yono seemed to be moved as well. Her face was red and she didn't say anything for a long time. The other girls had different expressions but they were all thinking the same thing. At the same time Wu Yen entered the tent. You're all here? Seeing that all the girls are present, he didn't notice the strange looks on their faces. Instead, he retreated to the side like he's keeping them in suspense. Look, who is it? The young ladies all subconsciously cast their gazes towards the entrance of the tent. When a purple figure walked in and appeared in front of their eyes, their expressions changed and they were all stunned. Time seemed to have stopped. Yukari looked at the girls and their stunned expressions. Yukari found it funny but also felt warm. If it wasn't a surprise they wouldn't be acting like this. With a rare gentle smile, Violet tilted her head and smiled at the girls. What's wrong? Don't you recognize me? Her crisp and charming voice entered the ears of the girls one by one, causing the sluggish expressions on their faces to gradually relax and be replaced by a thick sense of joy. Yukari sis. Astria and Flandre-chan, who spent the most time with Yukari, got up and hugged Yukari's arm. Flandre-chan jumped on Yukari's body. Their faces were flushed red from excitement. Yukari. Chuju and Mikoto finally reacted. They looked at Yukari happily. You're back. Yukari nodded with a smile. I was just summoned back. You won't disappear again, right? Flandre-chan doesn't want to see Yukari sis disappear. Flandre-chan looked at Yukari with hopeful eyes. Yukari couldn't help but rub her head. I won't this time, don't worry. That's great. Astria and Flandre-chan cheered at the same time. Hinajiku, Mikoto, and the others also let out a sigh of relief. They ran to Yukari and pulled her over. For a moment, the whole place was filled with the laughter of reuniting with each other. Wu Yen laughed dryly when he saw the girls surrounding Yukari and talking about something. Just ignore me. Chapter 10:14. Early morning, walking out of his tent, Wu Yen tidied up his messy clothes while yawning tiredly. Yesterday, because of Violet's return, the girls decided to hold an impromptu celebration to celebrate Violet's return. Initially, Violet didn't want to celebrate. She was more curious about what happened to the girls while she was away. As for the celebration, when can't they celebrate? However, when Violet refused to celebrate, the girls also used the same reason to force Violet back. Left with no choice, Violet could only follow the girls' arrangement and participate in the celebration. At that time, Wu Yen, who had been ignored, was picked up by the girls. As for the reason why he was picked up, it was very simple. The celebration required delicious food. Therefore, while the girls were celebrating Violet's return, Wu Yen cooked for them for the whole night. In the end, the girls were all satisfied. As for Wu Yen, he kept cooking even when he was sleeping. Fortunately, vampires are nocturnal creatures and have unlimited stamina. Otherwise, after last night's torment, Wu Yan's hands would have been sore and numb when he woke up in the morning. At this time, the sun had just risen. Even the sun hasn't fully shined on the ground, it can only be considered as dawn. After tossing and turning for so long last night and now waking up so early in the morning with Wu Yan's personality, it's no wonder he's so tired. Patting his cheeks, Wu Yan raised his foot. However, as soon as he lifted his foot, Wu Yan's face showed a stunned expression. He looked in a certain direction in front of him. His eyes were filled with confusion. In front of a tent not far from Wu Yan, a slender figure was standing in front of the tent with her back to Wu Yan. She was looking in a certain direction, emitting an unusually dignified aura. A pink and white dress swayed up and down in the breeze, along with the blonde hair tied with a bow. This scene was indescribably beautiful. The slender figure was none other than Violet. It's Violet? Looking at the beautiful figure with her back to him, Wu Yan's face and eyes were full of surprise. If he was said to be lazy because he liked to sleep in the morning, then compared to him, Z was definitely not inferior. Although she possessed a frightening level of power, Purple was a true monster, a real monster. Her main activity time was from evening to midnight. During the day she slept all the time. It was said that she could sleep more than 12 hours a day. It could be said that except from evening to midnight, Violet was basically inactive. And this was one of the rules of conduct for ordinary demons. In other words, Violet was a monster, a very typical monster. Yukari hibernates during winter and only wakes up during spring. Since no one knows where Yukari hides during winter, they can't tell if this habit is real or not. However, since she said so herself, Wu Yan and co believed her. In addition, Violet had the habit of leaving everything to others when she was sleeping. During the week that he lived with Violet, Wu Yan and the others were really annoyed by her. Fortunately, Violet tasted Wu Yan's cooking and fell in love with Wu Yan's cooking. Every time Wu Yan cooked or when she was hungry, she would find Wu Yan. Otherwise, it would be difficult for them to even talk to her because they had a completely different schedule from Violet's. One could only imagine how lazy this difficult demon sage was. According to her, it was all due to her physique. However, the others were only skeptical and did not fully believe her. More accurately, no one actually believed her. She could control the realm power and was close to the origin. How could she not be able to handle such a small habit? Yukari managed to pull Wu Yan down from his position as the laziest person in the room. Yukari took the title of the laziest person in the room. It was not time for dinner yet and the sky was almost bright. Logically speaking, Violet should be lying in bed at this time. Why was she standing there? Could it be that she was active all night and did not have time to sleep? Then why was she standing there? Or has Violet already reached the realm of lying down and sleeping standing? If so, then I have to learn. Shaking his head with a smile, Wu Yan turned around and walked towards Violet. Still not asleep? Or did you just wake up? Let me return those words to you as well. Yukari giggled as if she already knew Wu Yan would come to her side. However, her eyes were still fixed on a certain direction in front of her. She didn't look away for even a second. Ma, I had something to do so I woke up early. Wu Yan mumbled. Yukari giggled and she replied with a teasing tone. Era, what a coincidence. I also had something to do so I didn't go to bed. You really didn't go to bed? Wu Yan pursed his lips and he glanced at Yukari. He frowned when he saw Yukari staring into the distance. What's wrong? Wu Yan followed Violet's gaze and saw the behemoth forest. Wu Yan's frown deepened. Is there something wrong with the behemoth forest? Wu Yan didn't think Violet would go against her usual routine and stand there doing meaningless things. Problem? Violet narrowed her eyes and nodded. It should be considered a problem, right? Question mark. Wu Yan didn't understand. Did you discover something? Discovered something? Violet lowered her head and pondered for a moment before smiling. It should be considered a discovery, right? What do you mean? Wu Yan rubbed his cheeks with a wry smile. Don't speak in riddles, okay? I'm not as smart as you. I'm not playing riddles with you. Purple slowly put away the smile on her face, and her expression became indifferent. Yes, I'm not sure what's there either. You're not sure? Wu Yan flinched. He looked at Yukari in shock. Why wouldn't I be sure? Why don't you just open a gap and take a look? If I could, I would have done it long ago. Violet shook her head, her golden hair rippling in circles. In the sunless dawn, her hair shone brightly. In one night, I used gap to scan the entire behemoth forest more than 3 times, but it seemed like the other party could sense my gap and couldn't find it at all. The other party? Wu Yan caught a phrase and said uncertainly, You mean there's something in the behemoth forest? That's why I'm not sure either, Wu Yan said grumpily. Then how do you know there's something strange in the behemoth forest? Violet stroked the parasol leaning against her shoulder, her eyes filled with an inexplicable light. If I have to explain, I can only say that there's a very ominous aura in that place. Ominous aura? Wu Yan couldn't make heads or tails of Yukari's cryptic words. Wu Yan thought for a moment and said, In other words, you didn't feel any ominous aura in the behemoth forest last time, but you felt it this time, so you're a bit concerned, right? Ah, Allah, as expected of Xiao Yan. You guessed it right away. A smile appeared on Violet's face as she nodded. Indeed, I'm a bit concerned. I see. Wu Yan scratched his cheek and hesitated before asking, Do you want to go and take a look? That's exactly what I'm planning to do. Violet didn't refute and admitted it. When she saw Wu Yan was about to say something, she knocked him on the head with the paper fan in her hand. There's no need for that, we can handle this on our own. Yukari grinned at Wu Yan's wine-red eyes and she said in a meaningful tone, Don't you have something you want to do too? As soon as he finished speaking, Violet's figure suddenly disappeared. What was left on the spot was only a crack that was closing up. Wu Yan shook his head and left after watching the gap close. As for worry, with Violet's strength, there was no need to worry at all. Chapter 10-15. Behemoth Forest. The towering trees that reached the clouds did not have the slightest pattern as they stood on the undulating terrain as if they had been there since the beginning of time. Not a single ray of sunlight could reach the forest that was surrounded by trees, emitting an ancient aura. The cries of birds, beasts, and insects were incessant, but there was no trace to be found. Vaguely, a roar full of ferocious and murderous aura was transmitted in the towering forest. Among them there were even one or two roars that contained a powerful aura. With just one sound, one could tell that the level of the owner was definitely not low. This was the deepest area of the behemoth forest, extremely close to the central area where the Beast King had been born. It could be said that this was the most terrifying area in the behemoth forest outside of the central area. The edge of the inner area was quite a distance away from here. It was common knowledge that the distribution of magical beasts in the behemoth forest was that the closer to the central area, the higher the level of the magical beasts. The central area of the behemoth forest was also divided into 3 areas: the outer area, the inner area, and the deepest area of the behemoth forest. Therefore, other than the central area, the deepest area of the behemoth forest was the area where the highest level magical beasts lived. In the deepest area of the behemoth forest, the magical beasts were not as terrifying as the 12-peak 9th level magical beasts that Wu Yen and the others saw when they went to the central area to search for the Beast King. However, it was still an area where 9th level magical beasts were active. Because magical beasts generally had longer lifespans. Even if they did not live for thousands of years, they lived for hundreds of years. Some with longer lifespans could even live for thousands of years. In addition, the deepest area of the behemoth forest was an area that humans did not want to go near the most. Therefore, after a long time, the number of 9th level magical beasts here had accumulated to a certain extent. They were not as strong as the 12-peak 9th level magical beasts, but they were still 9th level magical beasts. Of course, the deepest area of the behemoth forest did not only have 9th level magical beasts. There were 8th level magical beasts as well. These magical beasts, all of them were at the peak of the 8th stage. Magical beasts below the peak of the 8th rank didn't dare to approach this place. Even if they were at the peak of the 8th rank, some magical beasts would choose to live in the inner regions of the behemoth forest. At least in the inner circle. They could even be the lords of a land. But if he was caught by a magical beast of the 9th step in the depths of the forest, then his tendons were pulled out, his skin was peeled, and his body was eaten. That was certain. Under such circumstances, unless it was really necessary to come here, such as the previous operation to investigate the birth of a Beast King, even a powerhouse of the 9th level would not be willing to come here. But today, in the depths of the behemoth forest that everyone feared, someone had come. In a certain corner of the behemoth forest, there was a dilapidated stone forest. The trees that were everywhere stopped growing here, leaving behind a large empty area. There were no more trees, instead there were stone pillars, stone spikes, stone towers, and even stone statues. It looked like someone had lived here before. The stones were artificially carved, but in fact they were all natural. That's right, the stones in this stone forest naturally existed here. No one had ever touched them, and no one had ever come here before. It had been at least 1,000 years since anyone had come here. No one knew how long it took for this place to become such a miraculous sight. One could not help but sigh at the uncanny workmanship of nature. Now, this stone forest that had been lifeless for a long time finally welcomed a guest. At the edge of the stone forest, a pitch-black crack suddenly and silently ripped open in the empty space, exposing the vicious eyeballs inside. It caused the dead silence in the surroundings to become eerie all of a sudden. It was chilling. In the next moment, in the pitch-black crack filled with sinister eyeballs, Violet held a parasol and leaned on her slender shoulder. She walked out of the crack, with a smile on her face as if she was taking a leisurely stroll. Her dress fluttered in the wind as she slowly walked out of the crack, and arrived in front of the stone forest. The gap closed after its success, returning the scene to an intact void as if nothing had happened. Only Purple's figure stood alone in front of the tall stone forest. Compared to those stones, Purple's slender figure was undoubtedly very tiny. However, the incredible sense of existence that hovered around her gave people a wonderful feeling that she was the only one in the world. It was far from what those dilapidated stones could compare to. Her hand stroked the hair by her ear. Her action was so natural that it could definitely make the blood of the young men boil. Zihuan's bright eyes were cast on the stone forest. She glanced at her surroundings and tilted her body. Soon after she smiled. "It's here, right?" Her light voice echoed as if she was talking to herself, as if she was waiting for someone to answer her. She turned her head and looked in a direction beside her. Over there, a few black figures were slowly closing in on them, Those were demonic beasts. No, to be more precise, they were demonic beasts that had turned into monsters. Its entire body was covered in pitch-black scales. The front end of its 4 limbs were like the claws of a ghost or the tentacles of an octopus. It was extremely disgusting. Its ferocious head was also covered in black scales. However, there were no eyes on it. What was left was only a large eye socket that looked like a pair of goggles. Inside the eye sockets there were many moving eyeballs. These demonic beasts looked more like monsters than demonic beasts. Some looked like baboons, some looked like tigers, some looked like jackals, wolves, tigers, leopards, and some looked like elephants, fish, dogs, and cats. However, all of them were covered in pitch-black scales. The front of their limbs had turned into that disgusting appearance. Coupled with their ferocious heads and strange eyes, it was as if they had returned from hell. Even Purple, who had lived for over 1,000 years and had seen a lot of things, couldn't help but raise her beautiful eyebrows when she saw such a monster. Demonic beasts? They don't look like them. If Wu Yan was here, he would have noticed that these demonic beasts looked exactly the same as Marcus and Bing Mian when they were possessed by blacklight. Ha, ha. Just as Violet was sizing up the demons in front of her and trying to identify their species, those disgusting demons suddenly let out a strange cry that sounded like the cry of a dying cat. Their disgusting eyes were cast on Violet's body, and then, a thick black aura erupted from their bodies. Seeing the black aura flowing around the demonic beasts, Violet's brows furrowed tightly. A trace of disgust appeared in her eyes. What an uncomfortable aura. She twirled the parasol in her hand and sneered. I wanted to study it more, but this aura is too disgusting. It's even more disgusting than the bad luck on the body. If I capture you all, Xiaoyan and my sisters won't like it. It's better if you all disappear. Before Violet could finish her words, the magical beasts seemed to have lost their patience. Amidst the ghostly roars, they leaped into the air, bringing with them a large amount of black gas. They were like dark clouds that blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they pounced on Violet. Allah! Violet smiled faintly at the demonic beasts that pounced on her. How impatient! She didn't do anything but slowly smiled. In the next moment, a mysterious wave reverberated from her body and spread out like a wave. This is Violet's ability. The power of a realm. In just a moment, the wave that represents the power of a realm smashed into the demonic beast like a hot knife through butter. In the depths of the behemoth forest, the demonic beasts in front of them are disgusting, but their strength is not to be underestimated. Looking at the black aura that blotted out the sky, each one of them is probably a level 9 demonic beast. But this group of level 9 demonic beasts didn't even make a sound in front of Violet's ability. They didn't even have time to struggle. In the blink of an eye, under the power of a realm, they were all turned into ashes. Not a trace of them was left behind. With a wave of her hand, a group of level 9 demonic beasts died in Violet's hands. This is the power of a demigod. This is Violet's power. It belongs to the founder of Fantasy Village, the power of a sage. As for Yukari herself, it was as if she had done something extremely insignificant. Her expression did not even change in the slightest. Only a sharp glint flashed in her purple eyes as she looked at the place where the magical beast had been reduced to ashes a second ago. Over there were streaks of black light dancing. Chapter 10:16. There were about a dozen of them. The black lights danced up and down like ribbons, pacing back and forth like large earthworms twisting their bodies. However, if one were to observe carefully, one would notice that although they were flying around recklessly, none of them dared to fly in the direction of Amethyst. Purple narrowed his eyes filled with interest. Although Amethyst did not know what these black lights were, she was certain when she saw that they were timid and did not dare to approach her. These black lights either had consciousness, or even if they did not, they had a beast-like instinct. They knew what was dangerous and what could threaten them. Black lights with instincts or consciousness. They could even attach themselves to other life forms? Amethyst felt that she had seen enough strange things in her life. She had seen all kinds of strange things in the Fantasy Village. However, she was still interested in something like this. The reason why those magical beasts became so disgusting is probably because of you. Amethyst's lips curled up slightly. She stretched out her hand. That's good too. I can't take those disgusting things away, so I'll bring you back to study them. Amethyst did not know if the black lights understood her words. When Amethyst stretched out her hand, they all trembled. With a sudden twist, it broke through the atmosphere and flew toward the forest in the distance with a whistling sound of wind. Their speed exceeded that of an ordinary 9th-grade warrior. Running away? Seeing the black lights flying in the opposite direction of her, Yukari was not surprised. Instead she was delighted. They chose to run away when she was about to attack instead of running away when the situation was bad. Amethyst could basically rule out the possibility that the black lights had consciousness. These black lights. They should have some kind of biological instinct and relied on it to control their actions. Era, isn't this interesting? Amethyst's interest grew. She no longer dared to delay. She slowly opened her hand and let her palm face up. Then, a sparkling, translucent cube appeared in Amethyst's palm, glowing with golden light. Amethyst was not only good at cultivation, she was also good at enchantments. This cube was one of the enchantments that Amethyst was good at, quadruple enchantments. Therefore, if anyone could discover it, he would have seen it. Inside this small cube, there were 3 other cubes that almost overlapped with it. These cubes were one size smaller than the original one. Clearly, by using the power of the barrier, Violet wanted to capture all of these black lights. With a move of his palm, the 4-layered square enchantment whistled in the air. It expanded with the wind and turned into a star. It tore through space and shrouded the black light that was flying away. Buzz. Before they could even touch He Guang's body, the 4-layered square-shaped barrier expanded fiercely. In an instant, it expanded from the size of a palm to the size of a stone forest on the ground, covering the sky above the stone forest. Although the speed of the black light was extremely fast, the 4-layered cube that suddenly expanded was even faster. In less than a second, it had already grown to the point where it could envelop the stone forest below, enveloping all the black light. The black light that was trapped in the enchantment did not slow down at all. It crashed into the enchantment at an extremely fast speed. In the end, it was like an egg crashing into a rock. With a muffled sound, it flew back and almost shattered itself. When all the black light was trapped in its body, the 4-layered barrier slowly descended. As it descended, it shrank in size. When the 4-layered barrier fell back into Amethyst's palm, it had already returned to its original size. Amethyst looked at the black light that was scuttling back and forth in the 4-layered barrier, trying to break free from the barrier. A joyful smile appeared on her face. For the time being, it shouldn't be boring. Amethyst shook his head with a smile as he patted the 4-layered barrier that imprisoned the black light in his hand. After all, it seems like we're not the only ones interested in you. When he said this, Amethyst raised his voice slightly. It was extremely clear as it reverberated in the surroundings. It was like a sound wave that slowly drifted into the distance, as if he was deliberately saying this for someone to hear. As it turned out, Amethyst's actions were not without reason. Beep! Suddenly, the sound of thunder striking down from the clouds in the sky like a thunderbolt. A burst of dazzling light flashed, illuminating the entire dilapidated stone forest in an instant. Amethyst raised his head slightly with a faint smile on his lips. He looked at the thunderbolt that was striking down. To be more precise, Amethyst was not looking at the thunderbolt, but at a person within it. That's right. There was a person within the thunderbolt. It was a man who looked to be in his 40s or 50s, but he had a long beard on his chin. This person wore a white robe with a thunderbolt pattern engraved on it. In addition to the thunderbolt that fell from the sky just now, one could imagine how powerful this person was. However, although the scene just now was very shocking, the aura on this person's body was faintly discernible. It was not as domineering as the thunderbolt engraved on his white robe. He was just like an ordinary person. However, could an ordinary person float in the air? In the Spalier world, there was only one type of person who could float in the air other than those who were proficient in wind magic and some special flying magic and combat techniques. A demigod. This person was actually a demigod. Whoosh. Almost at the same time as the thunderbolt fell, an ear-piercing sound of wind breaking resounded above the stone forest. With a sonic boom, the person cut through the sky with a momentum that was not inferior to the previous one. In a flash, he appeared above the stone forest. It was an old man, an inconspicuous old man wearing a gray robe. However, this old man was also floating in the air. Just as the old man appeared above the stone forest, a pitch-black figure flashed from afar. As if teleporting, it directly appeared beside the old man and the old man in the white robe. This time the person who appeared was also an old man. He was also floating in the air, but the difference was that he was wearing a black robe. In the blink of an eye, in the behemoth forest in the sky above the stone forest, 3 demigods appeared. No. It's not over yet. Whoosh! Like the howling of the wind and thunder flashed, bringing with it an ear-piercing sound. Immediately, another figure appeared in the sky. Her long hair was scattered behind her back, fluttering with the wind around her. She looked very elegant. She looked to be around 30 years old, more than twice as young as the other 3. However, the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes constantly showed that her real age was definitely above what one could see from her appearance. This was a gorgeous woman. However, she also knew how to float in the air. The four people who suddenly appeared in the sky stood in opposition to each other, forming a square with four corners. After they appeared, their auras completely disappeared. They were all like ordinary people, inconspicuous, if one ignored the fact that they were floating in the air. Sweeping her gaze across the four people in the air, the smile on Violet's lips unknowingly widened by quite a bit, proving that she was definitely in a rather good mood right now. However, that happiness was not directed at the four people in the sky. Instead, under the guidance of her gaze, it was directed towards the person on the ground opposite her, in her vision, in front of her, in the stone forest, next to a stone pillar that was supposed to be lifeless. A figure appeared out of nowhere, silver white hair, blue muslin clothes, a delicate figure, a beautiful face. She was in the prime of her youth, looking as youthful and beautiful as Violet. However, Z's interest in such a young girl was even greater than that of the four people in the air who weren't young at all. This was because although the auras of the four people in the air were ordinary, Yukari could still clearly sense their specific strength. As for this young lady who looked as young as herself, if not for Yukari wanting to test the wonders of the system's perceptive ability, she might not have discovered her until now. It wasn't that she was stronger than Violet, but there seemed to be something on her that was hiding everything about her. Chapter 10:17. In the air, the white-robed old man, the gray-robed old man, the black-robed old man, and the gorgeous woman faced each other. They looked at each other as if they were surprised by each other's appearance. "I didn't expect you to come as well." The white-robed old man was the first to voice his surprise. When he looked at the black-robed old man, the surprise in his eyes became even more obvious. "That's not a big deal. I didn't expect you to come as well, Mula. You haven't left your Spalier World Academy magic crystal shop for at least a decade, right?" Hearing this, the black-robed old man snorted heavily, and his attitude was extremely bad as he yelled. "What? Do you have a problem with me coming here? Magnobi." If Wu Yen was here, he would be so shocked that his jaw would drop to the ground if he saw this black-robed old man whom Magnubi referred to as Mula. This old man is the owner of a magic crystal shop that Wu Yen met when he first entered Silveria World Institute. The owner of the shop had a very bad attitude towards his customers. After hearing Muele's bad attitude, the other three didn't feel strange at all. Obviously, it was not the first time that they had seen Muele's bad attitude. "I'm just a little surprised." Magnubi glanced at Mula. "Didn't you say you wouldn't leave the Spalier World Academy until you reached peak demigod rank?" Mula curled his lips in disdain and sneered. "Didn't you say you wouldn't cultivate your lightning beast-type combat skill to the point where you could destroy the entire Spalier World Academy? You wouldn't leave the Baruba Empire's treasury?" Magnubi's eyes flashed with anger. "If you didn't embarrass me, would I have said something like that? I just don't like the way you Baruba men look down on women." Mura spat out his saliva. "Disgusting. You. Enough." The argument between Mula and Magnubi escalated to a higher level. When his anger was on the verge of erupting, the gorgeous woman stood up at the right time. "Stop arguing. Since you're here, I'm sure you're here for the same reason. Do you want to mess things up by arguing?" Mula and Magnubi paused at the same time. After exchanging a glance, they both snorted. Turning his head away, he could tell that the relationship between the two of them was not good. "Linya, did you receive the news as well?" Magnubi turned his gaze to the beautiful woman. "I thought I was the only one who received the news. Even Mura left the Silveria World Institute and you received the news. It's reasonable for you to leave the Fea Empire's treasury. Aren't you the same?" The gorgeous woman named Linya smiled and looked at the gray-robed old man who had been silent all this time. "Why didn't you tell me that something like this happened?" "Garen, that's not very nice of you." "Yes, the gray-robed old man. He's the guardian of Ailu Empire, Garen." As for the other three people's identities, they could more or less guess from the conversation just now. Magnubi is the guardian of Baruba Empire. Linya is the guardian of Fea Empire. As for Mula, even though he's not a guardian, he's one of the 5 demigods in the Spalier world. 5 demigods. At this moment, 4 demigods appeared at the same time. Maybe there's more than 4. Mula, Linya, and Magnubi looked at the silent Garland at the same time. They could feel the other three's gazes. Garen smiled bitterly. "It's not that I don't want to talk about it. It's just that the truth is too unbelievable. If we don't get to the bottom of it, who would dare to talk about it?" A glint flashed across Jarlin's eyes as he looked at the three demigod powerhouses who seemed to be deep in thought. Something that can turn people into monsters and level up. The four demigod experts were rarely seen in 100 years. Now that they had come here, their objective was obvious. It's the black light. Come to think of it, it was Bing Mian who created this rare scene. Even though he was possessed by the black light and turned into a monster, Bing Mian's vitality is strong. When the black light left his body, Bing Mian was able to recover. Wu Yin didn't kill him at the time. Instead, he agreed to Bing Mian's request and allowed them to deal with it themselves. Anyways, the half-crippled Bing Mian turned into a cripple after Kuroto messed with him. Even walking is a problem for him. Wu Yin isn't in the mood to deal with a piece of trash like this. The Saito family learned about the origin of the black light from Bing Mian and how Marcus and Bing Mian were turned into monsters and leveled up unnaturally. Following that, the Saito clan's Type 9 powerhouse brought up the matter during the council meeting. At the same time, the news reached Garen and the other demigods. They were tempted. It's not that they wanted to be turned into monsters. What attracted them was the effect. Leveling up. This was a huge temptation to others, but to those who had already become demigods, it was even more tempting. After all, if even they could level up, then what would happen if a demigod leveled up? Celestial. It's been missing for a long time. All demigods dream of leveling up to Celestial. Under the temptation of leveling up to Celestial, they ignored the side effects of the black light. Perhaps they thought that with their level they could eliminate the side effects of the black light. They don't know what to do if they can't eliminate the side effects. Anyway, it's better to have a chance than not to have one. This was also the reason why they were all gathered here today. Demigods are indeed powerful. Somehow they found out that the black light originated from the behemoth forest. Hence they came here one after another. Yukari used her realm energy and 4 layers of barrier to capture the black light. They sensed the powerful energy and came here. That's what led to the current situation. Thinking of the powerful force they had just sensed, the 4 demigods looked down at the same time. They saw the confrontation between Violet and the silver-haired girl, which stunned them. Then they were surprised. That's... Linya exclaimed when she saw the silver-haired girl. Cynthia? She's here too. It's not that strange. Jarlin shook his head and sighed. The 4 of us are here. It's only natural that Cynthia would come. After all, leveling up is too tempting. Especially for us. Magnubi nodded solemnly. The 5 demigods of the Spalier world are here. This is going to be interesting. Jaren and Linya's expressions turned serious as well. They only hoped that they would be able to get what they wanted smoothly, and it would be best if there was no conflict. Otherwise, if the 5 demigods of the Spalier world start a war, things will get serious. After all, they don't just represent themselves. They also represent their respective empires. If something goes wrong, the empires under their protection will get involved. If that happens, the Spalier world will be in chaos. Mura, who isn't an empire guardian, didn't think much of it. He glanced at the young girl named Cynthia and then looked at Yukari, who was holding a parasol. That energy just now, was it hers? She. Jarlin, Linya, and Magnubi looked at each other and frowned. She's a demigod as well? It's no wonder the demigods reacted this way. They are the only 5 demigods in the Spalier world. The sudden appearance of a 6th demigod would shock anyone. However, they quickly recalled something and came to a realization. She must be the demigod who defeated the Beast King. Yes, I've also heard that a newly born Beast King was defeated by a newly ascended demigod. What's her name? I remember. If I remember correctly, her name is Yukari Yakumo. The 4 demigod powerhouses began to discuss as if there was no one else around. Although the demigod was on the same level as them, a newly ascended demigod was not enough to warrant their caution. Unfortunately, they didn't know that Yukari isn't a new demigod. In terms of level, Yukari is only average among them. However, in terms of strength, Yukari, who possesses the power of a higher realm, isn't someone they can casually discuss. Chapter 10:18. Perhaps because Garen, Linya, Mula and Maganubi didn't lower their voices at all, the content of their conversation naturally fell into the ears of the 2 people who were standing opposite to each other on the ground. Cynthia? Yakumo Yukari? The 2 girls muttered at the same time. Their gazes grew more and more interested. Yukari didn't expect such a young girl who looked like she was in her 20s or even in her teens to be a demigod. Silveria wasn't a fantasy world where monsters, vampires, undead, celestial beings were everywhere. Existences that lived as long as the heavens could be found on the streets. Humans were the dominant life forms in this world, but their lives were also weak and pitiful. Yukari didn't think the girl was anything other than a human. However, could a normal human reach the demigod level in their 20s? The answer was no. Now, such a person appeared in front of Yukari. She didn't know if there was any inside story, but it didn't stop Yukari from being curious about Cynthia. Moreover, if she didn't use the system's senses, she wouldn't have been able to discover his existence. As a shifter sage, how could Yakumo Yukari not be curious? As for the young girl, Cynthia, her curiosity was much purer. She was just curious. How did this beautiful girl, who looked about her age, discover her existence? This kind of thing had never happened before. The thing that Cynthia is hiding is no ordinary thing. The two beautiful and noble girls had forgotten about the other 4 demigods. They looked at each other in silence, not bothering to hide the curiosity in their eyes. Until a certain moment, Cynthia, who obviously lost in terms of patience, took the initiative to speak. "I'm Cynthia." Yukari smiled and nodded. Yakumo Yukari. What a strange name. Cynthia pursed her lips. She didn't mince her words. "Can you tell me how you discovered my existence?" Yukari's lips curled into a sly smile. "Then, can you tell me how you managed to hide your existence?" "Me?" Cynthia blinked. "I relied on external objects to hide my existence." "Allah, what a coincidence." Purple smiled. "I was only able to discover your existence by relying on external objects." "You discovered my existence through external means?" Cynthia tilted her head and asked curiously, "What's that?" Looking at the other party's curious expression, the purple side turned sideways. "Then what are you relying on to hide your existence?" Cynthia rolled her eyes at Yukari. "I'm the one asking you a question. Or are you asking me a question? Too cunning." Hearing this, Z only smiled and didn't say anything else. At first, Z was still doubtful. The girl named Cynthia in front of him should be an old monster who had lived for God knows how many years. The reason why she looked so young was because she had used some items to retain her youthful appearance. Her appearance shouldn't match her real age. But now Yukari has refuted this conjecture. A real old monster, even if they could pretend to be the same as when they were young, it wouldn't be natural and their aura wouldn't be too dazzling. However, not only did Cynthia act like an ordinary young girl, she also acted naturally. Although Yukari couldn't completely sense her aura due to the external object in her mouth, Yukari felt that Cynthia's real age should match her appearance. In other words, Cynthia was a demigod in her teens or 20s. Thinking of this, Amethyst narrowed his eyes slightly. Of course, she didn't think that anyone in their teens or 20s could reach demigod rank. At least in the Spalier world there was no such person. Even if there was such a person, it would be Wu Yan's summon who had the system. Therefore, this demigod named Cynthia must have a story behind her. At this moment, the 4 demigods floating in the air landed on the ground one after another. They came to Yukari and Cynthia's side. Instinctively, Jarlin, Mula, and Magnubi sized Z up. Only then did they realize that this new demigod master was younger and prettier than they had imagined. Gazing at Z, who was looking at them with a smile, even though Garland and the other 2 were already in their 70s or 80s, they could not help but be amazed. Even Linya, who was a woman, was the same. She also felt a little bit of disbelief. Cynthia was a very young demigod. Yukari could tell this based on her rich experience. The 4 demigods who had known Cynthia for a long time naturally knew this as well. However, they didn't expect that there would be a demigod as young as Cynthia in this world. The reason why Cynthia could become a demigod at such a young age was very complicated. However, it was certain that it wasn't the result of her own cultivation. Therefore, Garland and the others didn't feel anything strange. However, Yukari's appearance made them waver. Could it be that Yukari's appearance was fake and her real age wasn't that young? Or was she in the same situation as Cynthia? Several thoughts flashed through their minds. Although they were puzzled, the 4 demigods did not have the intention to pry into other people's bodies. Soon, their gazes shifted from Violet to her hand, which was the quadruple barrier that trapped the black gas. Seeing the black gas trapped in the barrier, the demigod's eyes were filled with desire. The most bad-tempered Mula stepped forward. "You're Yakumo Yukari, right?" Mura yelled impatiently without any manners. "The black gas in your hand, is it the black gas that can turn people into monsters?" Garland, Linya, and Magnubi all looked at Yukari with a hint of curiosity in their eyes. Turn people into monsters? Yukari's eyes turned slightly. She looked at the black gas in her hand and shook her head with a seductive smile. "I don't know if it can turn a person into a monster, but I got these disgusting things from some magical beasts that turned into monsters. That's it. Mula laughed out loud. His voice was filled with joy. The other demigods had the same reaction. Miss Yukari? Garland stepped forward and nodded politely to Yukari. We're also looking for this thing. Since you found it before us, can you give some to us? Yes. Magnubi nodded. Miss Yukari has the same goal as us, right? Then you should know that this thing is very important to us, very important. We can exchange something with you. Even though Linya was anxious, she did not show it on her face like the rest of them since she was a woman. I'm sure Miss Yukari can find something she likes. After saying that, the 4 demigod powerhouses stared straight at Zimeng, and they did not shift their gazes away. Yukari listened to the 4 demigods and looked at the black gas in her hand thoughtfully. She then turned her head and looked at Cynthia. Are you here for this as well? Cynthia was surprised. Cynthia was startled for a moment. She didn't expect Violet to ask her such a question, but she still nodded honestly. Yes, I need this thing too. If you're willing to trade, I can give you something in exchange. Hearing this, Z's smile suddenly became sweet. If someone familiar with Yukari was here like Wu Yen or Yukari Shikigami, Yakumo, they would break out in cold sweat if they saw this. Yukari was a typical monster. She was difficult to understand, but she had a habit that everyone knew. If there was a sweet smile on Z's face, it meant that she was definitely not thinking of anything good at that moment. The sweeter her smile, the more dangerous it was. The pitiful group of demigods did not know that because of what happened today, they would be toyed around by our demon sage for a long time in the future. Chapter 10:19. On the other side, in the depths of the behemoth forest, there is a deep valley with complicated terrain. The deep valley seems to have been split into 2 halves. There is a small passage at the end that can only allow one person or a small magical beast to pass through. On both sides of the passage are walls that are more than 10 meters tall. There are vines growing all over them. One look and you can tell that there has been no signs of life here for a long time. And in the deep valley there was a stream that led to the deepest part of the valley. When the stream reached the end of the valley, it flowed into a lake. At the end of the lake there was a waterfall on the cliff. Although the terrain of the deep valley is very complicated, there is no doubt that it is a paradise. If there are fruit trees, people can live here for a long time. The behemoth forest is very unsuitable for people to live in. Otherwise, people would have built bases in the behemoth forest to harvest resources. It is not easy to find a suitable place to live in the behemoth forest. One can imagine how unique this deep valley is. Although there are no fruit trees and it is not suitable for people to live in, it is a good place to live. Unfortunately, this deep valley had already been occupied by someone else. On a large rock next to the waterfall, there is a person sitting cross-legged. He is wearing a beast skin coat and his face is pale. He looks like he has suffered a serious injury and is very weak. The right side of his body was completely deformed. An arm and a pair of thighs had completely disappeared, leaving behind only a torso, an arm, and a head. It was incomparably miserable. If an ordinary person's body was crippled like this, they would probably have thoughts of committing suicide. This person is the Beast King that was heavily injured by Wu Yen. Clearly, the Beast King is not in a good condition. Using his only remaining arm, the Beast King is gnawing on a piece of flesh in his hand. It is indeed a piece of flesh. It is completely raw. It has not been processed at all. Moreover, from this piece of flesh, one can faintly see the outline of a human chest. It is a piece of human flesh. If one looks carefully, they can see that. Below the rock that the Beast King is sitting on, there are many things piled up. Bones. Human bones. They were all humans who had suffered at the hands of the Beast Kings. However, from the looks of it, there weren't many of them. That was only natural. Now, almost everyone knows that the Beast Kings can consume the flesh and blood of cultivators to speed up their recovery. If the Beast Kings were to capture cultivators without restraint, they would definitely be discovered. Therefore, the Beast King could only endure. Every day he would secretly capture 1 or 2 unlucky people in the behemoth forest. If it was just 1 or 2, then it wouldn't be a big problem. After all, the behemoth forest was originally a world of magical beasts. If people wanted to hunt here without casualties, then they would be too naive. Sitting cross-legged on the boulder, the Beast King silently gnawed on the flesh in his hand, extracting the essence within to heal his injuries. Although his injuries were severe, he was a magical beast with a tenacious vitality. Moreover, he was already a demigod. As long as he continued to heal, his injuries would be healed sooner or later. As for whether or not his broken arms and legs could be healed, that would be difficult. Therefore, in addition to secretly capturing 1 or 2 people in the behemoth forest every day, the Beast King would also go out every day to search for treasures. The behemoth forest has plenty of these treasures, some of which can even heal broken limbs. It was also because of this that the Beast King could endure the fact that he was being hunted down. Otherwise, if the proud and arrogant Beast King had to secretly capture ants, he would have gone crazy long ago. Oh? The Beast King, who was repeatedly gnawing on the flesh, suddenly stopped and frowned. Then he quickly turned his gaze towards the deep valley in front of him. There, several figures were gradually approaching. From the looks of it, they should be magical beasts. Seeing this, a trace of anger appeared in the Beast King's eyes. He had already spread out the scent that only magical beasts could sense to warn the other magical beasts in the behemoth forest not to approach this place. But now, it seems that some magical beasts ignored his scent and barged in. How could the Beast King not be angry? He is the king of magical beasts. How dare some magical beasts ignore his scent? This is illogical. The Beast King felt that his dignity was being challenged. Magical beasts are not kind pets. The weak are prey to the strong. There are situations where they eat each other all the time. Even if the Beast King sees all the magical beasts as his subordinates, if they dare to offend him, even if they are his subordinates, he will cut off their heads. Just as the Beast King was about to kill the magical beasts that barged in, he just moved his hand when he noticed that there was something wrong with these magical beasts. Their bodies were covered in pitch-black scales. Their limbs were like ghost hands and tentacles. Their faces only have 1 large eye socket, but there are 7 eyeballs in it. Are these still magical beasts? The Beast King looked at these monstrous magical beasts in confusion. How come I didn't know about this breed? Is it a new breed? But even if it's a new breed, it can't ignore its scent. Something's wrong. The Beast King narrowed his eyes and looked at the magical beasts that were wobbling closer. He waved his hand. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. Following a few popping sounds, a few sharp bone spikes burst out from the ground beneath those magical beasts, and directly pierced through their bodies. Strange sounds came from their mouths. They didn't even have time to see what they killed. Their heads tilted to the side and their breaths gradually faded away. The Beast King thought this was just a small interlude. However, when the magical beasts died, rays of black light shot out from their bodies and flew into the air. Seeing this scene, the Beast King froze for a moment. After recovering, he hurriedly stretched out a hand and the mana within his body surged, instantly forming a huge skeletal hand. As it rose and fell, the skeletal hand grabbed the few black lights and pulled them back. The black lights immediately fell into the Beast King's palm. At the same time, a scene that the Beast King did not expect happened. The rays of black light ignored the Beast King's hand and collectively entered his skin. Not long after, the Beast King's hand surged with black gas and black scales climbed up his arm. The Beast King's body trembled, his face became serious. Although I don't know what this thing is, but if it wants to be impudent in my body, as he spoke, the Beast King closed his eyes and a majestic magic began to circulate around his body. After an unknown amount of time, the Beast King finally opened his eyes when the sky turned completely dark. Rays of black light flashed in his eyes. So that's how it is. A sinister, hateful, and ferocious smile suddenly appeared on the Beast King's face. It made his originally domineering aura seem like that of a devil's. Moreover, his smile continued to widen. In the end, he actually laughed out loud. Ah, good. Very good. After saying this, the Beast King rose into the air and flew towards a certain direction in the Behemoth Forest. Behemoth Forest, a tall cliff. When the Beast King arrived at this place, the scene in front of him could be called hell. Waves of dense black gas rolled around like waves, completely enveloping the huge cliff. Within the black gas, rays of black light intertwined and danced around. It was like thousands of insects were stuffed into a small jar. It was a hair-raising sight. Occasionally, one could see 1 or 2 magical beasts in the surroundings of the high cliff that seemed to have been attracted by the strange phenomenon. As a result, these magical beasts were all possessed by the black light that suddenly surged out and turned into ferocious monsters. The Beast King calmly looked at this scene and a black light flashed in his eyes. His body turned into a meteor and rushed into the black gas. Along the way, streaks of black light surged into his body violently as if they had seen some delicious food. However, the Beast King did not even try to stop them. He went straight to the top of the cliff, to a platform that was continuously emitting black gas and black light. Then, with a wave of his palm, he directly smashed the entire platform into pieces. Then, a pitch-black hole appeared in front of his eyes. Inside, it was all black gas and black light. The Beast King laughed sinisterly. Wuyan. Yakumo, human, I will endure for a while until I come out of seclusion." After saying this, the Beast King's body flashed and he rushed into the hole. On the high cliff, the black gas and black light that enveloped the entire high cliff rapidly decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye and flowed into the hole. Chapter 10:20. Ilu Empire, Supply Town. Ever since the establishment of the camp outside the giant beast's forest, or more accurately, since the day of the monster rampage, the town's popularity has been dwindling. That's to be expected. The behemoth forest is a natural treasure trove. The reason people keep coming here is because the Spalier world's demand for demonic beast body parts and other natural treasures. Warriors and magicians who have reached a certain level of mastery in the giant beast's forest will fight magical beasts. It's not just because fighting magical beasts can increase their combat experience, it's also because killing magical beasts and harvesting their body parts can be sold for a good price. If you're lucky, you can find some rare natural treasures while hunting demonic beasts. It's not impossible for you to become rich overnight. Cultivators had a high status in the hearts of ordinary people because they had great power. However, cultivators also needed to eat, to have a place to stay, and even to feed their families. Not every cultivator was a member of a large clan or a powerful force. In fact, there was a very common phenomenon among all cultivators. Warriors make up 2/3 of the commoners. Magi make up 2/3 of the people in large families and factions. Among all the cultivators, warriors accounted for more than 2/3 of the total number of cultivators. The conclusion drawn from this data was that cultivators make up the majority of the commoners. The result of this conclusion is that cultivators rely on themselves to survive. Most of them had to rely on their own strength to support themselves, unlike those cultivators from large clans and forces who could rely on their clans and forces to support themselves. Most cultivators chose to hunt in the giant beast's forest to increase their combat experience while selling their loot. That's the path most cultivators chose to take. That's why the supply town closest to the behemoth forest is the most popular. Cultivators who want to enter the behemoth forest have to pass through here. They sell their demonic beast body parts here. They sleep here at night and travel to and from the behemoth forest. That's why the supply town is the most popular place. Wu Yin still remembers. When he first came to the supply town, the streets were filled with people, regardless of whether it was day or night. It was like a festival, and it was like that every day. But now, the demonic beasts in the behemoth forest are in danger of rioting. The behemoth forest camps have been set up. The Empire gave the camps the resources needed for normal operations. To ensure safety, no one is allowed to enter the behemoth forest. That's the same as cutting off the cultivator's source of income. Of course, no matter what. Even if they were commoners, cultivators were still cultivators. With some strength, they could find a way to get money wherever they went. But at the same time, there was no need for that anymore. There were no more cultivators coming to the supply town. The streets that used to be filled with people were now scattered in 2s and 3s. At a glance, the end of the street could be clearly seen. It was no longer like before, where even 1 or 2 meters away from the ground would be filled with people. The supply town is no longer a supply town. It's a real town. Other than the occasional guards from the camps who come here to buy things, the only people in the supply town are the natives. Fortunately, the shops here are still open. Some of the resources brought back from the camps are sold here. Otherwise, the town would have been abandoned. Thank you for your patronage. Walking out of the shop amidst the cheers of the shop's employees, Wu Yan's hands are already filled with bags. Chuju wants clothes. Misaki-chan wants a bag. Kurumi wants hair accessories. Yoshino wants some books. What else do I need? Oh right, Mikoto wants Gouda, Kotori wants lollipops. Wu Yin counted the items in the bags. He's at a loss. But do they sell Gouda and jewel lollipops in the Spalier world? Obviously, Wu Yin is buying gifts for the girls. This is what he promised the girls. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't leave, Wu Yin wouldn't have delayed until now. But from the looks of it, Wu Yin, who's not good at shopping, is a bit tired. Looking at the sparse streets of the supply town, Wu Yin sighed in a troubled manner. I'll go look for more, I don't have anything to do today anyway. After making up his mind, Wu Yin patted his cheeks to cheer himself up. He then walked down the street. Wu Yin scanned through the shops in an attempt to find Gouda and lollipops. They're considered rare items in the Spalier world, especially the former. It's not easy to find. That's the conclusion Wu Yin came to after 3 hours of shopping. After 3 hours of searching, Wu Yin suddenly had an idea. Would a normal shop sell Gouda and lollipops? Indeed, the reason why a trading company was called a trading company was because its scale had already developed to a certain extent. In such a trading company, How could one find things that belong to children like Gouda and lollipops? If he wants to find these two items, it's better to go to the stalls or small shops. I'm so stupid. Bitterly laughing, he knocked his head and sighed again. Along with the sigh, he lost quite a bit of his strength. Wu Yen, who was sighing in the middle of the street, didn't notice that a figure appeared in a corner not far from him. The figure was staring at him with resentment. Found you? Wu Yen? In the middle of the street, Wu Yen stopped sighing. He turned around to look at the corner of the street, but he didn't see anything there. Wu Yen scratched his face and frowned. Am I mistaken? At this moment, an ear-piercing sound broke through the air. Along with a little magic fluctuation, it suddenly rushed out from the other corner and headed straight for Wu Yen. Although the magic fluctuation wasn't very strong, it made Wu Yen, who thought it was an illusion, shiver. He quickly looked in that direction and a violent storm came into his sight. Wu Yen squinted his wine-red eyes. He didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he stomped on the ground. Suddenly, a magic flow that was several times stronger than the magic contained in the storm surged up violently. Wu Yen didn't use any special technique, he used the purest form of mana to meet the incoming storm head-on. Bang! It was as if a scorching airflow had collided with a gust of wind. The muffled sound reverberated in all directions along with the sound wave. The originally intact street was struck by the sound wave, and the ground within a 5-meter radius cracked open. The glass windows of the shops on both sides of the street were all shattered into pieces. A few of the unlucky ones who were closer to Wu Yen were stunned by the sound of the attack. Before they could react, the shockwave hit them and blew them away, leaving them moaning and groaning in pain. Luckily, the storm's target was Wu Yen and he managed to block it in time. The attack didn't directly affect the people around him. Only the wind and waves that collided with each other were affected. Although some people were blown away, it didn't do much damage. However, the people on the street were blown all over the place and screams of agony could be heard everywhere. From this, it can be seen that the storm's power wasn't that great. At most, it was 5th or 6th grade. Otherwise, Wu Yen wouldn't have blocked it with pure magic. Wu Yen also knew this, so he didn't pay attention to the people around him. Because of the sneak attack, he looked at the source of the storm. Soon after, he saw it. On the other side of the street, there was a young girl who wore a veil on her face. Her face couldn't be seen clearly, but she was around 17 or 18 years old. She had long, straight black hair that was like a waterfall. She was looking at him with eyes full of resentment. Chapter 1021. Murder. Some cultivators are fighting. Run. The surrounding passers-by finally reacted to the sudden situation. One by one they let out terrified screams. Some of them even turned pale. To these ordinary people, a battle between cultivators, even if it was a cultivator of the lowest level, was extremely destructive. If they were careless and got themselves involved with their ordinary bodies, they would be seriously injured for at least a few months. Because of the shockwaves from the battles between practitioners, some commoners would die. Even though this didn't happen every day in Silveria, it wasn't a rare occurrence. Therefore, if a fight between practitioners were to happen, it would be no different from a disaster for the commoners who were unlucky enough to encounter it. Therefore, amidst the waves of horrified screams, the surrounding pedestrians did not care about their destination and directly ran towards the end of the street on both sides. Especially the few people who were blown away just now, they looked as if they hated their parents for not giving them 2 more legs. They ran as fast as they could. Not long after, the people at the scene ran away without a trace. Only a few other cultivators remained, as well as the 2 people who had caused all of this to happen facing each other from a distance. His ears are still ringing with the terrified screams of the commoners around him. His eyebrows are clouded over as he looked at the veiled girl in front of him and coldly opened his mouth. Although I don't know why you attacked me. Can't you see that there are so many commoners around? Although ordinary people were no different from ants to cultivators, they were still cultivators after all. Other than a few extremely evil people, cultivators would usually take into consideration that there were no ordinary people around when they fought, so as to avoid being implicated. It's not that cultivators are kind-hearted. It's just that if they knew that there were commoners around, they would hurt the weak commoners. How is that different from bullying others? Most of the cultivators had this mentality. Therefore, they would usually check the location of the battle. After all, they don't want to hurt the weak commoners for their own sake. Of course, that is excluding the evil people. The veiled girl was slightly taken aback. His gaze, which was filled with resentment, immediately dropped. A look of guilt appeared on her face. However, it was quickly replaced by hatred. Then a light and ethereal voice came from under the young girl's veil. It slowly spread out. Since I didn't hurt anyone, if I don't vent my anger today, I won't give up. Vent your anger? Wu Yan was taken aback. He frowned and looked at the girl. How did I offend you? The girl didn't answer Wu Yan's question. Instead, she asked another question. Are you Wu Yan? Yes, I am Wu Yan. That's right. Strands of mana flowed out from the girl's slender body. She didn't give Wu Yan a chance to ask any more questions as she yelled at him. See if I don't kill you. Listening to the girl throwing a tantrum like a child, he opened his mouth but he couldn't get angry no matter how hard he tried. Instead, he felt very conflicted. Wait, are you mistaken? I don't think I've ever offended a girl. Before he could finish his sentence, the girl's mouth under the veil started to move quickly. She released a sound that was as soft as a mosquito. At the same time, a storm that was even more ferocious than before rolled up from the girl's body. It was like a blooming lotus. It flashed with a green light and violently swept past like a tornado. Hey! Wu Yan wanted to say something. The tornado that was spinning crazily like a spinning spear pierced towards him mercilessly. *CK. At that moment, Wu Yan could only curse gloomily. However, since he knew that there was something fishy about this matter, he naturally wouldn't make a move. Moreover, Wu Yan wasn't going to argue with a little girl. His expression is gloomy but his body moved. He took a step forward and instead of retreating he moved closer to the incoming tornado. Following that he lashed out with his leg. Like a whip, his leg flashed in front of him and it landed heavily on the tornado that is not weak in the slightest. This kick, Wu Yan didn't use magic or superpower. He only used his physical strength to throw out this kick. However, it was this kick that sent the wind magic that was powerful enough to slice off a layer of the ground in the surrounding streets, flying away with a muffled sound. The wind magic changed direction and shot straight into the sky. Seeing this scene, the masked girl's eyes suddenly widened. Faintly, from her transparent veil, one could see that her mouth had turned into an O shape. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. My magic was actually sent flying with a kick. Looking at the girl's look of disbelief, Wu Yan bitterly smiled and shook his head. He was certain that he didn't know this girl and this girl definitely didn't know him. If she did know him, even if she didn't know his strength, she should have heard of his deeds. She should know that he was once the strongest person in the Spalier World Academy and that he killed Marcus and Andrew, who were both peak rank 8. It's impossible for someone who knows him not to know such a big event. Moreover, the information from the system is also very unfamiliar. Rena? Phelps? Level 55. Rena? Phelps? I don't know her. What did I do to offend this girl? Phelps. Phelps. This surname, is she a member of the Phelps Empire's royal family? Wu Yan couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he racked his brain. He could only bitterly smile. But this bitter smile in Rena's ears sounded like mockery. Thus, Rena became angry. What's there to be proud of? This princess hasn't used her true strength yet. Without thinking, Rena yelled angrily. But due to her anger, she also leaked some useful information. This princess. Wu Yan raised an eyebrow. You're a member of the Phelps Empire's royal family? How did you know? Rena exclaimed out of reflex. Even though she regretted it, it confirmed Wu Yan's guess. All right, princess of the Phelps Empire. Wu Yan rubbed his brows as if he had a headache. Let's not talk about why you're in the Ailu Empire's territory and in a supply town. You should at least tell me how I offended you. What do you mean you're an elder? This princess is only 17 years old. Rena yelled, and the sound of gnashing her teeth came from under the veil. If you want to know, let this princess teach you a lesson first. Are you stupid or am I stupid? Wu Yan rolled his eyes at Rena. Do you think that's possible? Even if it's impossible, it has to be possible. Rena declared like an unreasonable princess. In short, if I don't teach you a lesson, this princess will be angry. With that, Rena waved her slender hand and a dazzling small green staff appeared in her hand. Moreover, magic power surged within it. Rena had actually used her armament. Are you for real? Wu Yan's jaw dropped, he almost couldn't speak properly. Rena snorted and ignored Wu Yan. She channeled her mana into the magic staff and the crystal at the tip lit up. Wu Yan saw that Rena was about to open her mouth to chant another spell. He quickly hid his shocked expression and clenched his teeth. Since he couldn't explain himself, he would have to take her down first. At the same time, Wu Yan didn't delay any longer. He channeled a trace of mana and activated a spatial teleportation spell. He disappeared from the spot. Rina only saw a blur in front of her eyes, and the detestable guy in her heart disappeared. Before she could react, the hand holding the staff suddenly felt weightless. Even his armament had disappeared. Rina's face was full of shock. At this time, a pitch-black halo suddenly fell from the sky and wrapped around her body. Then it suddenly contracted and trapped Rina, who was still in shock. "What is this?" Rina cried out in surprise. Only now did she realize that Wu Yan was standing beside her and pressing his hand on the pitch-black halo. "You did this." Rina struggled with all her might. "Let go of this, princess." Wu Yan snorted, the corner of his mouth slowly raised into a smile that made Rina tremble in fear. "Before that, I think we need to talk." Chapter 1022. Bang. Ouch. With a soft thud, Rina, who had a black ring around her body, flew through the air in a beautiful parabola. Then she fell onto the soft bed amidst her screams of pain and surprise. Although the bed was soft and didn't hurt Rina, she was still thrown on it. No matter how soft the bed was, it couldn't prevent the vibration. Rina wasn't injured, but she was still dizzy from the vibration. But that wasn't important. What was important was where she was now. In a hotel room. Moreover, she was sharing a room with a man she hated to the core. Sitting up from the bed, Rina retreated to a corner at an unimaginable speed. Her delicate body curled into a ball, and she screamed with a restrained voice. "You! Why did you bring me here? What do you want to do?" Wu Yan closed the door indifferently. But it was this sound that made Rina's body tremble exaggeratedly. Her big watery eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Rina retreated to the corner of the bed and looked at him like he was a beast. Wu Yan's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and walked over. "Stop right there," Rina shouted when she saw Wu Yan approaching. "I'm warning you. If you dare to touch me, I'll ask my father to cut you into pieces." Hearing that, Wu Yan couldn't stand it anymore. "You call yourself a princess, but your head is full of evil thoughts. Do you think a man will touch you?" Hearing Wu Yan's words, Rina was a little angry. But she was relieved and tilted her head in confusion. "Then why did you bring me to such a dirty place?" "What a filthy place." Wu Yan resisted the urge to roll his eyes as he casually sat on the edge of the bed. "Didn't I tell you? Let's talk." "Talk?" Rina was stunned. She snorted and turned her head away. "I have nothing to talk about with you." "Is that so?" Wu Yan smirked and rubbed his chin. He started looking at Rina's body. Rina has a good figure. Her body is slender but her curves are smooth. Her exposed thighs shone with a white sheen. Her breasts are also well endowed. Ikaros, Astria, and the other girls with great figures are better than her. She's much better than Kurumi and almost as good as Shokuho Misaki. She has a pair of big round eyes and long black hair. Wu Yan didn't take off Rina's veil, but he's sure she's a beauty. Also, she said she's only 17 years old, right? Rina's body at 17 years old, she's practically the second Lulu. Wu Yan couldn't help showing a look of admiration as he sized her up. Lana caught it by accident. Rina's face. "Don't look at this princess with those dirty eyes of yours." Wu Yan raised his head and looked at Rina. He blinked and smiled. "You can't take it? There's still a good show coming." What do you want to do?" At this moment, even Rina couldn't help but feel afraid. You better not mess around. Otherwise, you will definitely die a very, very miserable death. Imperial Father will definitely not let you off, Father." Wu Yan rolled his eyes. "Since you're calling him father, you must be the daughter of Fea Empire's emperor, right?" "Why, that's right." Rina's courage increased when Ailu Empire's emperor was mentioned. "I am the biological daughter of Fea Empire's emperor. Moreover, I am his only biological daughter. Imperial Father loves this princess the most, so you better let this princess go. Otherwise, Imperial Brother will definitely tear you apart before Imperial Father does anything. He also loves this princess the most." "Brother?" Wu Yan ignored Rina's weak threat. "Who's your brother?" "My brother is the Prince of Fea Empire, Kaya Fea." "Fea. Kakaya." Wu Yan looked at Lana, who was looking at him with a smug expression. "You're Kaya's sister? Can't I?" Perhaps it was because Reina had revealed her background, but she returned to her unruly state. Wu Yan didn't have the time to care. He frowned and asked after some hesitation. "Then, are you looking for trouble because I defeated your brother in Spalier World Academy? Who cares if he dies?" Rina, who was planning to use her brother's name to scare Wu Yan, immediately blurted out such a declaration. She was stunned for a moment before exclaiming, "You said you defeated my brother? You don't know?" Wu Yan's expression turned into one of amusement. "Since you have such strength, you should be a student of Spalier World Academy, right? Haven't you heard of me? Do I have to hear of you?" Rina curled her lips in disdain. "I am indeed a student of Spalier World Academy. I just took a 3-month leave." Wu Yan felt relieved. No wonder this wild brat hasn't heard of him. She took such a long leave of absence. "I haven't been a student of Spalier World Academy for more than 3 months. In other words, I went in as soon as this girl took a leave and she came back after I left?" There were all kinds of coincidences. Helplessly shaking his head, Wu Yan sighed. "Since you don't hate me because I defeated Kaya, what did I do to offend you?" "What? What did I do to offend you?" Wu Yan's reminder reminded Lana of the reason why she came looking for trouble with him. Her face turned green and her eyes burned with rage. She started struggling with all her might. "How dare you ask me what I did to offend you? Damn bastard. Let me go. I'm going to teach you a lesson." "I think you're the one who needs to be taught a lesson the most." Wu Yan was pissed when Rina didn't answer his questions. "You better tell me the truth or I'll throw you out on the streets." "You dare." "Why wouldn't I?" Wu Yan sneered. "That's right. By the way, let me tell you something. I still won't release the shackles on your body. If you want to wait for it to disappear on its own, it will take at least 8 to 10 days. During this period of time, I think there will be people who will be very, very interested in you who can't resist you." Lana's expression changed. Wu Yan didn't look like he was faking it. She gulped and her eyes were filled with anger. "Damn it. Why would someone like you be Sister Sylph's fiancé?" "Sylph?" Wu Yan was surprised to hear this name. He asked Lana in a surprised tone. "Are you looking for trouble with me because you think I'm not good enough for Sylph?" "Yes. Of course. Sister Sylph is so beautiful, so noble, so powerful and so sacred. You're not worthy of her. Even your clothes are cheap. How can you be worthy of her?" Lana retorted. "You're not worthy of her at all. Even your clothes are cheap." Wu Yan almost choked on his breath. His expression became more and more interesting. His lips kept twitching and his eyebrows kept twitching. He looked at Lana, who was glaring at him like she wanted to bite off a chunk of his flesh. After holding back for a while, he finally managed to squeeze out a sentence. "You don't know me, so why do you think I'm not good enough for Sylph? Are you stupid? Are you an idiot?" Lana gave Wu Yan a look of disdain. Then, her gaze turned into a heated one. "Sister Sylph is as noble as a lotus on a snowy mountain. Her beauty can make heaven and earth lose its color. Her gaze can make all things sing and her voice can make everyone scream. Even her body is blessed by the sun. She is the most beautiful and powerful ice queen in the Spalier world." After saying that, Rina's tone of adoration changed and she became fierce again. "How can a man be good enough for someone as good as Sister Sylph?" Wu Yan pressed down on his chest, suppressing the urge to vomit blood when he heard such words that can't be ignored. "Don't tell me you're a lesbian? You're the lesbian. Your whole family are lesbians. I just can't bear to leave Sister Sylph's side. How could I be a lesbian?" Lana said with a smirk. "You're a lesbian," Wu Yan roared in his mind. Chapter 1023. As noon approached, there were more and more people in the supply town. Most of them are natives of the supply town. Only a small portion of them came here to purchase behemoth forest resources. After all, the behemoth forest resources can only be used in 2 ways. One is to transport them to King City, the other is to store them in the supply town and let the resources flow to the entire Ailu Empire. That's why the supply town didn't become a place for people to live in. Without the giant beast forest resources, a lot of businesses would close down and the town wouldn't be worthy of the word supply anymore. However, as the flow of people increased, the pedestrians on one of the streets of the supply town all moved to the sides, leaving a large space in the middle of the street. It was as if some royal family was passing by. However, the people's shocked and curious gazes were telling others that the visitor wasn't someone worthy of respect. "Let go of me! Let go of me!" Rina shouted at Wu Yan, who was walking in front of her as if she was about to cry. Her face was red as if a flower thief was about to make a move on her. Only her angry eyes were silently accusing and proving something. Sensing the curious, shocked and confused gazes from the crowd around her, as well as the way they looked at each other and whispered to each other, Rina felt that she had really embarrassed herself. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Of course Rena felt embarrassed. Because at this moment, the pitch-black halo around Rena's body still hasn't disappeared. No, not only did it not disappear, there is also a rope tied to the front part of the black halo and the other end of the rope is in Wu Yan's hand. In other words, Rena, the princess of the Fea Empire, was a noble. She is being dragged around by someone like a dog. How could Rena not feel humiliated? Fortunately, Rena still has some self-awareness. She didn't shout out, "This princess," in front of everyone. Otherwise, the commotion she caused at that time wouldn't be as dramatic as it was now. Instead, it would be a real big commotion. Furthermore, Rena couldn't shout those words either. No. In other people's eyes. At most, she was a young girl who was tied up with a rope. However, if she called out, "This princess," then she would become a princess who was tied up with a rope. If that really happened, where would she put her face? Even if the people around her didn't know her identity, she still felt embarrassed. She twisted her body desperately, trying to break free from the strange halo that could imprison her mana. However, she had been struggling for an entire hour since she left the hotel, and the halo didn't loosen at all. She wanted to cry but no tears came out. "Let go of me," Rena screamed frantically. "Aren't you afraid I will take revenge? You already did your best to get back at me." Wu Yan didn't even turn his head as he sneered. "If I let you go, what are you going to do? Do you even need to ask? Of course I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm going to show Sister Sylph that you're a piece of trash who can't even beat a 17-year-old girl. I'm going to cut all ties with you and cut all ties with you." Wu Yan turned around with a surprised look on his face. "I thought you were going to say, 'Of course I'm going to kill you to save Sister Sylph.' That's what I'm going to say." Rena paused for a moment before a look of realization dawned on her face. "Alright. I didn't know there was such a way." Wu Yan's mouth twitched, he rolled his eyes at Rena. "I'm sure you're not only a lesbian, you're a completely unqualified lesbian. You're the lesbian. What makes you think I'm unqualified?" Rena raised an eyebrow, her contradictory words made the people around her laugh. "Of course you're unqualified." Wu Yan recalled something and his expression turned sour. A real lesbian should call the person she's a lesbian to be her lady big sister. Every day she'll look for an opportunity to rub against her lady big sister's modest chest. She'll think about pushing her lady big sister down all the time and look for an opportunity to drug her. She can even accept being whipped by her lady big sister. When she meets someone who intends to touch her lady big sister, she'll say things like, "I'll stuff you underground," or, as her lady big sister's personal bodyguard, "My mission is to defeat all the apes who intend to touch her lady big sister." Wu Yan spouted a string of strange words into Rena's ears. She was stunned, she even thought she was unqualified. That seems to make sense. Rena nodded thoughtfully. Not long after, she raised her head abruptly and said excitedly, "Alright. Rena will call Big Sister Sylph Big Sister from now on." Wu Yan, who was walking in front, almost tripped and fell to the ground. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and felt a little guilty. Could it be that he had raised a pure lily into a pure pervert? What a sin. Wu Yan shook his head and drew a cross in front of his chest. He muttered as if he was atoning for his sins. "Sylph, don't blame me. I was just complaining. I hope you can live your life as usual." Rena saw Wu Yan muttering and shouted in dissatisfaction. "Hey, what are you muttering over there for?" "Nothing." Wu Yan rolled his eyes and noticed the veil on Rena's face. He narrowed his eyes and asked, "Alright, why are you wearing a veil? Are you ashamed of your appearance?" "You're the one who's ashamed of your appearance." Rena jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on. "I don't know how beautiful I am. How can a cheap thing like you know how to appreciate my beauty?" "Cheap thing?" The veins on Wu Yan's forehead bulged. "If you're not ashamed of your appearance, then why are you wearing a veil? Do you think I'm willing to do that?" Lana's tone became indignant. "I was fine when I first came to Ilo. Who knows if the men in this empire ate the wrong medicine? Every time they see me they stick to me like flies. It's disgusting. If it wasn't for the fact that I have no other choice, I wouldn't want to be a masked person." "Interesting." Wu Yan raised an eyebrow. "Even flies stick to you. Looks like you're pretty good looking." "Of course." Rena's eyebrows danced. "I'm a princess after all, how can I not be pretty? You really do shine with a little sunshine." Wu Yan shook his head with a chuckle. He tugged on the rope and continued forward. "Eh." Lana yelled when Wu Yan pulled her along with a rope. "Where are you taking me?" "Of course." Wu Yan pursed his lips. "I'm taking you back to the camp." "Back to the camp?" Wu Yan nodded and glanced at Rena. I wanted to let you go so we can go our separate ways. But if I do that, you'll come after me again, won't you? Of course. If I don't ask you to annul your betrothal with Sister Sylph, I won't let you get away with it. Lana said haughtily. That's right. Wu Yin sighed. That's why I can't just let you go, but I can't just leave you here either. I can only bring you back to the camp and hand you over to the people in charge. They will send you back to Fea Empire or Silveria World Institute. What? You're sending me back? Rena screamed and started struggling again. No, no, no. I don't want to go back. Why are you so resistant? Wu Yin quickly pulled on the rope to prevent it from slipping away. Did you sneak out? That's not true. Rena shouted stubbornly as she struggled. You haven't canceled your engagement with Sister Sylph yet? How can I go back unless you cancel your engagement with her? I think you should just give up. Wu Yin pursed his lips. Even though I was confused about the engagement, Sylph herself hasn't canceled her engagement yet. Why are you making such a fuss about it? Impossible. Sister Sylph wouldn't be interested in a cheap piece of trash like you. Rena screamed and struggled. Let go of me. Ignoring Lana's antics, Wu Yin pulled Lana along and they headed towards the giant beast forest camp. Chapter 1024. Behemoth Forest Encampment. So this is Ailu Empire's Behemoth Forest Encampment? Standing outside the camp, Rena's curiosity was immediately replaced by boredom as she looked at the camp that was filled with tents, weapons and guards who were patrolling back and forth. Apart from that, there was nothing special about the camp. It's so shabby. Wu Yin rolled his eyes as he glared at Lana with an exasperated look. This is an encampment, not a castle. Do you think there are golden walls and war chariots? There should at least be a fence. Rena said in a matter-of-fact tone. If the demonic beasts go berserk and rush into the encampment, we'll be in trouble. You think a fence can stop a bunch of rampaging demonic beasts? Wu Yin pursed his lips. Lana wasn't convinced by his words. It's better than having nothing and exposing the encampment to the outside world, right? Wu Yin turned around when he heard Lana. He stared at Lana so intensely that if she wasn't restrained by the black ring, she would have covered her chest with her hands. You. Why are you looking at me like that? You can't take it anymore? Yeah. I can't take it anymore. Wu Yan's mouth twitched. I really can't take it anymore. What do you mean? Little princess, even if you haven't been to Fea Empire's encampment. Even if you don't know what the encampment looks like, you don't have to be so shallow. Rena's eyes were filled with anger. Wu Yin pointed at the encampment in front of them. Take a closer look. Do you really think there's nothing here? Lana wrinkled her nose. She subconsciously looked at the campsite again under Wu Yan's guidance. Her expression turned serious. She finally noticed that something is wrong. The encampment looked like it only had tents and guards. However, not far from the encampment, there was a fluorescent light. It was blinking. That is. When Rena saw the fluorescent light clearly, she was stunned. Then she was astonished. A barrier? Good, it's not a waste of your 6th-tier power. Wu Yin sighed. Fences, walls, war chariots, how can they compare to a barrier? I see. Lana nodded in realization. She paused and she looked at Wu Yin with a suspicious look. Right. How do you know I'm 6th tier? Wu Yin smiled bitterly at Rena's question. Do you think everyone is like you, rushing forward blindly without understanding the strength of the other party? What? You make it sound like it's something amazing. Rena yelled unhappily. Then why don't you tell me how powerful you are? What's your tier? What's the level of your armament? Are you a sorcerer or a warrior? Wu Yin rubbed his head as if he has a headache. Heavens, it's fine if you don't even know if I'm a mage or a warrior, but you still want to cause trouble for me? I have to hand it to you. Rena rolled her eyes and giggled. If that's the case, why don't you let me go? Wu Yin looked at Lana like she's an idiot. She was infuriated by the way Wu Yin looked at her. I'm warning you. Don't look at me like that again. Otherwise I'll get angry. When this princess is angry, even she is afraid of herself. It's scary. Looking at the angry yelling at him, he thought, what? Rena was glaring at him fiercely with her big round eyes, baring her teeth like a spoiled kitten. Wu Yin couldn't help but laugh out loud. He nodded like he's serious about it. Indeed, it's scary. Ignoring Lana's flushed face, Wu Yin pulled the rope and brought this wild princess back to his tent. Lana's loud and coquettish scolding caused ripples in the air, attracting the attention of the surrounding guards. There is a rule in the camp that the guards are not allowed to bring outsiders into the camp, Violators will be punished severely. This is a rule that every guard has to abide by. When they saw someone bringing an outsider into the camp, the guards wanted to stop the intruder, but when they saw that it was Wu Yan, they exchanged glances with each other and they walked away while whistling like it was nothing out of the ordinary. If he dared to kill the person in charge of the camp, would the guards dare to cause trouble for him if he brought an outsider in? They would probably turn a blind eye to it. Even if the people in charge of the camp had a way to deal with Wu Yan, they wouldn't dare to offend a demon like him. It's better to pretend they didn't see anything. Under the watchful eyes of the guards, Wu Yan brought Rina to his tent. When Wu Yan was about to bring Rina to the public tent, Rina let out an ear-piercing scream. It almost shocked Wu Yan to the ground. "What's wrong with you?" Lana ignored Wu Yan's scolding. Her eyes bulged as she stared at the tents in front of her. To be more precise, she stared at the Misaka sisters who are busy with their chores. Her mouth that is hidden under her veil is wide open and her eyes are filled with disbelief. They all look. Wu Yan finally understood that Lana was frightened by the sisters who looked exactly the same as her. Sigh. Wu Yan patted his chest and sighed helplessly. What did I do wrong? Why did I have to deal with a wild girl like her? It's bad for my heart. Yan? At this time the entrance to the public tent was opened, and Hinajiku, Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, Kotori, Kurumi, and the rest of the girls ran out. Yan, what's wrong? I heard a scream. The more impatient Hinajiku and Mikoto ran towards Wu Yan as soon as they came out. While running they started asking questions, but when they saw Lana being tied up by a certain wolf, they stopped in their tracks. Even their mouths were frozen in place. Their impatient faces darkened. La. Kurumi acted as if she was frightened, but her wine-red eyes that weren't covered by her bangs revealed a deep smile, betraying her true thoughts. Did Aotsusama capture other girls because we couldn't satisfy Aotsusama's appetite? What a surprise, what a surprise. Not just Kurumi, even Shokuho Misaki looked at Wu Yan with a half-smile. Unlike Kurumi, she didn't seem to be smiling at all. I didn't expect you to bring a girl back after just a short while. You even did it in such a way. Yan, is this your hobby? As expected of Aotsusama. Despite her praise, Kotori's lips curled into an evil grin. Clearly, her words didn't match her true feelings. Nah. Both Hinajiku and Mikoto's gloomy expression changed into a bright smile, saying so. Aren't you going to explain? When he saw the girls looking at him with sharp eyes, it was as if they were considering where to cut him first. Wu Yan shuddered and he quickly let go of the rope in his hand. He said in a flustered manner. Wait. This is a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. The girls listened attentively but they didn't say anything. Shokuho Misaki and Kurumi were still smiling as if Wu Yan was doing a good deed. However, Wu Yan knew that without a good reason, the two girls wouldn't mind adding insult to injury even if they didn't want to. Wu Yan smiled bitterly. To prevent unnecessary misunderstandings, he released Lana from the rope and prepared to explain himself. What he didn't expect was that as soon as the rope was released, something unexpected happened. Lana let out another ear-piercing shriek. Everyone was shocked, but before they could react, they saw. With a speed faster than anyone could react, Lana turned into a blur, rushed towards Ikaros who hadn't said a word, and grabbed her hand. Hey sister. What's your name? Everyone was stunned. Chapter 1025. Wu Yan and the other girls fell silent when they saw Lana looking at Ikaros with her starry eyes. She clasped Ikaros' hand and acted like she's in a trance. Ikaros was also stunned. She couldn't figure out what was going on. Her pitiful face was filled with confusion. Her indigo eyes looked at Rina who was holding her hands, asking her silently. What's going on? What's going on? However, under the gaze of Ikaros' expressive indigo eyes, Lana moaned as if she was electrocuted. Even with a veil covering her face, everyone could see it clearly. Under the transparent scarf, there was a sparkling and translucent liquid that was slowly flowing down from Rina's mouth. It's saliva. Hey, big sister. Rina, who had completely lost her composure, giggled like an idiot. What's your name? Can you tell Reina? Ikaros stared blankly at Reina, but she still answered her question. Ikaros. Is your name Ikaros? Is that so? Reina's pretty face abruptly moved forward, her eyes shining brightly. She looked like that. Even Ikaros couldn't take it anymore. What a beautiful name. You're beautiful, so is your name? Lana stuck her head on Ikaros' body like a pig. Saliva dripped from the corner of her mouth, but Lana didn't notice. She kept rubbing her head against Ikaros' body, almost rubbing her face against Ikaros. What should I do? Rena already has big sister Sylph and now she has big sister Ikaros. Is Rena really a bad girl? Ugh. What should I do? That's what she said. Rena's face showed a blissful expression that couldn't be hidden even with the veil covering her face. In the next moment, a second stream of saliva flowed out from under the scarf. It's flowing out. Master. Rena passively accepted Rena's actions. Ikaros, who didn't know how to refuse, looked at Wu Yen for help. However, Wu Yen didn't have the time to care about Ikaros. He was petrified by the scene in front of him. He already knew Rena was a Yuri. He didn't expect her to be a true Yuri and not a pervert like Kuriko. Kuriko was only interested in Mikoto. She would only turn into a lesbian in front of Mikoto, but in front of other girls her orientation was normal. But looking at Rena, it was obvious that she was different from Blackie. Not only was she cute to Sylph, but her interest was also effective for other girls. In other words, Rena is a true Yuri with an abnormal sexual orientation. Ikaros didn't know what to do as Lana rubbed her face against Ikaros. The other girls took a step back out of reflex, including Flandra-chan, Yoshino, Astria, and Toka. Mikoto's body was trembling as she stared at Lana with caution. Sparks of electricity appeared on her forehead as she stared at Lana with a wary expression. Needless to say, this Yuri who was abused by her perverted roommate must have recalled her painful past. There's no doubt Mikoto wouldn't mind giving Rena a love whip if she dares to jump on top of Mikoto. Hey. Kotori glanced at Wu Yen with a sharp gaze. What's going on with that woman? Ahaha. Wu Yen chuckled dryly. He couldn't keep his cool. It's just like what you saw. Now you can rest assured that there's nothing going on between us, right? That kind of thing doesn't matter. Hinajiku, who almost turned black, glanced at Rena, who kept squeezing herself into Ikaros' arms, and Ikaros, whose eyes were filled with panic under Rena's teasing. She raised her voice slightly. Don't you think you should go help Ikaros? The girls went silent for a moment before they looked at Wu Yen. Wu Yen shook his head without hesitation. If there's a way to control that wild brat, I wouldn't have to tie her up. Wu Yen suddenly remembered something and turned to Mikoto. Mikoto. You go. Why? Mikoto jumped up. You have more experience. Who has experience? I don't need that kind of experience. Why are you being so humble? You should be happy that you can help Ikaros. That's true, but I don't want to get close to that girl. You're the only one who can save Ikaros now. All you have to do is pull her away and Ikaros will be saved. You were going to say sacrifice, right? Sacrifice, right? That must be it. In any case, it's time for you to make your entrance. Why does my appearance have to be set at such an uncomfortable time? Also, what's the meaning of that pause? While Ikaros' situation is still unresolved, Wu Yen and Mikoto's situation is already starting to get rowdy. The girls looked at each other, they looked at Lana, who has turned into an idiot, and then they looked at Ikaros, who has a troubled look on her face. For a moment, the girls didn't know what to do with themselves. In the end, the most courageous and kindest Kaishisama stood up. Hey, you. Chuju walked up to Ikaros and Rena with her hands on her hips and a sharp look on her face. Ikaros is very troubled right now, can you please not make things difficult for her? Rena, who was squeezing Ikaros' body, suddenly stopped and turned around. Her eyes were filled with displeasure. However, when she saw Chuju, who was emitting an oppressive aura, she froze for a moment. Then, the displeasure in her eyes disappeared and was replaced with passion. Feeling Rena's burning gaze, Chuju's body stiffened and a bad premonition rose in her heart. And the facts proved that her ominous premonition was completely correct. So cool, so handsome, so strong. Muttering these words, Lana crossed her arms in front of her chest and abandoned Ikaros without hesitation. She came to Hinajiku's side with twinkling little stars in her eyes. Dear sister, can you tell Rena your name? Her delicate body trembled, then trembled again. Her gaze met with Rena's eyes that seemed to want to swallow her whole. Finally, Hinajiku couldn't maintain her calm. She took a few steps back and a drop of cold sweat dripped down her forehead. My name is Chuju. Dear sister Chuju. When Hinajiku retreated, Lana immediately followed, closing in on her. The expression in her eyes constantly changed until finally, it turned into longing. No, I can't. Lana raised her head and leaped towards Hinajiku. Reina can't hold it in anymore. Wah. Daisy didn't expect Rena to do such a thing. She only had time to let out a miserable cry before she was pushed to the ground by Rena. You. Reina moaned as she sat on top of Chuju and sniffed around with her little nose. What a nice smell. I can't. Reina is going to eat. What are you doing? Being straddled by a woman, Hinajiku couldn't keep her cool, her face flushed red. And Hinajiku wanted to scold her and stop her, but before she could open her mouth, the scolding in her throat turned into a moan. That's because Reina sucked on Chuju's ear. No. Don't. Ugh. You. That's great. Here. And here. Wait. What are you doing? You. That's. Don't touch. No. Following Hinajiku's uncontrollable moans and Reina's excited gasps, the surrounding space was suddenly enveloped in a pink and ambiguous atmosphere. Everyone present was shocked on the spot, including the Misaka sisters who were watching from the sidelines. Watching Hinajiku being toyed with by Reina, the girls couldn't help but gulp, cold sweat dripping down their backs. Among them, Mikoto's situation was the most serious, even her back was drenched in sweat. Thank God I didn't go up. The girls didn't say anything else. Instead, they glanced at each other and quietly retreated until they were at a safe distance away. Only then did they spread their feet out in unison. They ran away. Looking at the girls who ran away and the blooming lilies in front of him, Wu Yan was silent for a while. He found a place and sat down. How could he not enjoy such a beautiful scene? Chapter 1026. Hee hee. The entire tent was filled with Rena's silly laughter. It was as if she was a lone lunatic who had escaped from a mental hospital. Her laughter gave people goosebumps that they couldn't help but feel uncontrollable. At this moment, Rena was lying on the table in the tent. Her mouth, which was covered by a veil, could not help but let out a silly laugh. Her laughter was full of joy, as if she was a child who had secretly eaten something good. Her eyes were blurred, and the blush on her pretty face was directly reflected on the transparent veil. Coupled with her creepy laughter, it was very suggestive. Hinajiku, on the other hand, was sitting in a corner with her head lowered. Her pink bangs covered her face, making it hard for others to see her expression. However, the gloomy aura that lingered around Hinajiku made it so that no one dared to approach her. Wu Yan and the girls looked at Chuju and then at Rena, who was once again trapped by the black ring. They looked at each other with resentment and didn't know how to react. Something terrible just happened. Misaka 13674 puffed up her chest and said to the other Misakas, "Your information is outdated." Misaka 17788 made a mocking declaration. "Misaka, I've already heard that a sister was pushed down." Misaka 12976 tried to extract as much information as possible. She shared it with the other Misakas. Why wasn't Misaka there? Misaka 10414 was very unwilling to give up. She asked the other Misakas to share the information with her. Misaka was there at the time and she even recorded everything that happened. Misaka 5392 took out a notebook from her bosom and proudly showed it off to all the other Misakas. Misaka 5392 is very cunning. Misaka 9987 made a stern reprimand and thought of how to get the notebook from Misaka 5392. Misaka 7747 made a request to borrow the notebook from Misaka 5392. Misaka 17377 agreed. Misaka 9919 concurred. Misaka 10032 concurred. Outside the tent, the Misaka sisters' undisguised conversation was heard by everyone, causing everyone's expressions to turn awkward. In his heart, he couldn't wait to drag those Misaka sisters out and strip them naked, and at the same time run a circle around their tents. Since Wu Yan and Ko can hear it, Hinajiku naturally can as well. Her delicate body shuddered violently, but she quickly returned to normal. However, she lowered her head even lower and the gloomy aura around her became even denser. Looking at Chuju like this, they all wanted to cry. The girls looked at each other and wanted to say something to comfort Hinajiku, but they were just deserters, and if they went up now, it would only trigger the gloomy atmosphere. Therefore no one dared to talk to Chuju. Mikoto snuck up to Wu Yan and growled in a low voice. "We can't let this go on. You think of a way." "Now you want me to think of a way?" Wu Yan laughed coldly. Of course he also lowered his voice. "Then why didn't you go and save Hinajiku? If you had, Hinajiku wouldn't have been violated like that." Era Xiaoyan? Shokuho Misaki appeared on the other side of Wu Yan. She covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes were full of meaning. I remember you were having a good time watching the show. Wu Yan's expression turned awkward, but he quickly regained his composure. At least I didn't abandon Chuju. You all ran away one by one. Guys who only know how to find excuses are the worst. Shokuho Misaki scolded. Besides, Chuju is your woman. Shouldn't you be consoling her? I want to. Wu Yan pursed his lips and continued. I'm just worried that Hinajuku will take it out on me later. Don't tell me she can't do it, you guys know she can. Mikoto and Shokuho Misaki were speechless. Wu Yan, however, Kurumi spoke up. Era Outsasama. You were the one who brought that guy back. Shouldn't you take responsibility? Stop it. Stop it. Wu Yan waved his hand angrily. I'm already regretting it. Is that so? Shokuho Misaki glanced at Wu Yan. She saw through his thoughts. But why do I feel like you're really happy? Wu Yan froze. After putting some distance between them, Mikoto berated him in a low voice. You're so bad. Hey. Wu Yan sweated. Don't make it sound like it's all my fault, okay? These words caused the girls to explode in unison. This is your fault. I say. Hinajuku slowly raised her head and glanced at the crowd with an expressionless face. Can you guys please lower your voices? I need some time to myself. In an instant everyone's mouths shut up. Just as the atmosphere in the tent gradually turned deathly silent, a sweet and mature voice, with a hint of doubt, echoed throughout the entire tent. It's really surprising to see such a strange scene as soon as we come back. Did we miss something? Holding a parasol and wearing a pink and white dress, her beautiful fairy-like figure was imprinted in everyone's eyes, causing joy to appear in everyone's eyes. Yukari? You're back. Well, I'm back. Yukari tilted her head and smiled seductively. But compared to that, can anyone explain to us what's going on? Who's that girl over there? That's... Wu Yan and the other girls all revealed awkward expressions. They laughed awkwardly, making the already weird scene even weirder. Yukari, you're just in time. To change the topic, Wu Yan clumsily walked to Yukari and pouted at Chuju. We're troubled right now, please help us comfort Hinajuku. Comfort. Yukari glanced at Chuju and looked at Wu Yan with a faint smile. Although we don't know what's going on, it's best not to provoke her now. You'll die miserably, as expected of the Sage of the Fairies. Even if we don't know the reason, we can still see the situation. Lana, who was lying on the table, heard an unfamiliar voice. She looked towards Yukari's direction and her eyes lit up like light bulbs. She screamed again without hesitation, causing Wu Yan and the girls to fall to the ground. Who is this wild girl trying to harm this time? While the group of people were roaring these words in their hearts, Reina actually jumped up from the table as if she was assisted by God. With a leap, she arrived in front of Purple. What a beautiful big sister. You're as beautiful as Big Sister Sylph and Big Sister Ikaros. Lana looked at Yukari pitifully. She rubbed her head against Yukari's chest. Big sister. Lana likes you so much. Please marry Lana. Lana will be good to you. Wu Yan and Ko, who just got up from the ground, shivered and their legs gave out as they fell back down to the ground. Even Hinajuku, who was in the dark, shook her shoulders in an exaggerated manner. She recalled the scene where she got F***ed by a girl. Her face darkened and the dark aura around her became even denser. Just when everyone thought that Violet couldn't handle this, Lily, who would have thought that after being stunned for a moment, Violet would smile. Her smile was exceptionally sweet. Ah la la la, I didn't expect little sister to like this too. You like this too? Everyone was stunned. You like this too? Lana was stunned for a moment before she reacted with excitement. Could it be that big sister is also? Yukari raised her paper fan and placed it under Rena's chin in a very flirtatious manner. She slowly lifted the veil on her face. The next moment, a delicate and cute face with a hint of childishness appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Oh? Not bad, you're almost as pretty as Ling Ming. Yukari licked her lips and let go of the parasol. Yukari's face curved into a smile and her free hand reached into Lana's clothes. Ugh. The girls lying on the ground blushed. They didn't know if they should look or not. In the end, they just buried their faces in the ground and refused to get up. Wu Yan was the only one admiring the blooming lilies while praising them in his heart. Our little sister Yukari is really the best. Chapter 1027. So comfortable. Era, I didn't think someone as young as you would have such a model. Ah, that's. Let's have a good taste. Big sister. Listening to Yukari's teasing tone and Lana's moaning and moaning, The girls lying on the ground felt like they were about to explode from shame. Even Wu Yan's heart started beating faster. Just as Wu Yan was about to lose his temper, a small hand tugged at Wu Yan's clothes. When Wu Yan turned around, Flandrechan's crystal-clear red eyes entered his line of sight, filled with curiosity. "Hey, Onii-chan." Flandrechan looked at Wu Yan expectantly. "Flan has been wanting to ask you this for a while now. What is that big sister playing with the other big sisters? Who knows where she came from? It looks like it's going to be fun." Wu Yan's face twitched, he laughed dryly. "And nothing, that's a game played by bad kids, Flandrechan mustn't imitate them." "Really?" Flandrechan put on a distrustful expression. "Then why do the big sisters have to play the game of bad kids?" "Ha ha. Ahaha." Wu Yan awkwardly scratched his cheeks, his eyes rolled, and he said to Flandrechan, "Ever since that big sister came, the big sisters have been led astray by her. So Flandrechan, as a good girl, you better stay away from that big sister, you'll be led astray." "So it's that big sister who led the other big sisters astray." Flandrechan showed a look of realization, and then a bloody glint flashed across her red eyes. "Then let Flandrechan play with her, that way she won't be able to lead the other big sisters astray." Wu Yan was shocked. "Flandrechan doesn't look like she's joking," he quickly said. Flandrechan. Be a good girl, Flandrechan, just watch from the side. I have a way to deal with that big sister." "I see." Flandrechan smiled innocently. She threw herself into Wu Yan's arms and rubbed her head against his chest. Her face was filled with happiness. "Sure enough, big brother is the best. I have a way to deal with the bad guys." Wu Yan sweated profusely and patted Flandrechan's back. He gently placed her on the ground. She immediately ran to Z's side. He pulled her out of the soft country covered with lilies. "All right, Yukari, Fran and Yoshino are still here. Don't be a bad influence on children." Violet pursed her lips, curled her lips, and turned her head away, releasing her hand from Rena's clothes. Rena immediately fell to the ground, panting, and her cheeks were already covered in a rose-like red. The girls lying on the ground heaved a sigh of relief and began to stand up. Only Chuju, who was sitting in the corner, suddenly raised her head and stared at Wu Yan. "Why didn't you come and save me when I was being bullied? Fran and Yoshino were there too. If it were me, wouldn't I be a bad influence?" His voice, which was filled with resentment, was extremely soft. However, it was clearly transmitted into everyone's ears, causing them to smile bitterly. In order to dispel the awkward atmosphere, Wu Yan patted his face and became serious. "How was it? Did you find anything after going out?" The girls gathered their focus and turned serious. It's not clear if they're trying to dispel the awkward atmosphere like Wu Yan, but they do know why Yukari went out. Zi Huan glanced at the crowd and nodded casually. "Well, I did find something." She gently waved the paper fan in her hand, and a tiny gap opened up in the air in front of everyone. Under everyone's gaze, a transparent cube object emitting golden light flew out from the gap and landed in Yukari's hand. Everyone took a closer look. Only then did they realize that within this transparent cube object, there were black lights that were twisting and dancing around like worms. "This is..." Before the girls could react, Wu Yan's expression changed. She narrowed her eyes and nodded. "It seems like you recognize this thing, Yen?" The girls flinched and looked at Wu Yan in surprise. Only a few of them who reacted fast enough seemed to have recalled something as their expressions changed. "This." Shokuho Misaki and Kotori looked at each other before looking at Wu Yan. "The last time you killed Marcus, the black light that flew out of his body and was tracked by you should be the same as this one, right?" Wu Yan didn't answer, he silently agreed. He looked at the black lights and frowned. He raised his head and met Yukari's gaze. "Yukari, is this the ominous aura you sensed in the behemoth forest?" "That's right." Purple put away the quadruple barrier in her hand, and a trace of seriousness appeared on her face. "Originally, I sensed that there were many similar auras in that forest, but after I put them away, those auras all disappeared." "They all?" The girls looked at each other. "Disappeared?" Wu Yan frowned and looked at Yukari. "Yukari, tell us what happened in the behemoth forest." Yukari pondered for a moment and told everyone about how she killed the ferocious-looking monsters in the stone forest and how she collected the black light from them. However, she didn't tell them about her encounter with the 5 demigods from Silveria. Wu Yan told Yukari how they got involved with Marcus, how he turned Marcus into a monster, how he killed him, and how he found out that the black light was the culprit. After both sides finished their explanations, the place fell into silence. Everyone looked like they were deep in thought except for the 2 gluttons and the 2 lolas. I'm afraid that there are quite a few of these black lights in the giant beast's forest. Shokuho Misaki said with a serious expression on her face. What are these black lights? Mikoto crossed her arms in front of her chest. I didn't see them in the behemoth forest and I've never heard of them in the Spalier world. Why did they suddenly appear? Wu Yen didn't understand either. He looked at Yukari who was smiling. Yukari, what do you think? I think it has something to do with that Marcus guy you mentioned earlier. Yukari spread out her paper fan and covered half of her face. Her eyes flashed with wisdom and she displayed an unusual charm. That moment of charm made Wu Yen and the other girls who were in the middle of a serious discussion look at her. Their hearts started to get restless. You're saying it has something to do with Marcus? Wu Yen narrowed his eyes. It has a lot to do with him. Yukari didn't jump to conclusions. He was the first one to turn into a monster and he was the first one to use the black lights. I don't think he has nothing to do with this. You're right? Wu Yen rubbed his forehead as if he had a headache. What should we do now? Nothing needs to be done. Yukari closed her paper fan and placed the tip of her fan on Wu Yan's forehead. Her lips curled into a meaningful smile. There are people who care more about these things than we do. Let them worry about it. Ha! Everyone was stunned. What do you mean? Yukari shook her head. She didn't explain and took something out of her pocket. They were 5 different colored gems. She tossed the 5 different colored gems into Wu Yan's hands. This is for you. Wu Yan quickly took it and looked at the gems with the girls. His face was full of confusion. What's the use of these gems? Who knows? Yukari replied with a meaningful smile. When you fight with others, if you can't beat them, you can take out these gems and show them. Maybe you can scare them away. Hearing Violet's ambiguous words, everyone looked at each other, causing Violet's smile to become even more joyful. Then she quickly changed the topic. Alright, since there's still that black light in the forest, you should pay attention to the safety of the girls. After all, the base is in the forest. Hearing this, everyone's expression froze. Wu Yen looked at the 5 gems in his hand and gripped them tightly. He looked up at the ceiling of the tent. Looks like we need to investigate this behemoth forest. Chapter 1028. Behemoth Forest. In a small corner of the inner circle, there was a team of about 10 people wearing armor and holding weapons. They were fighting against a huge magical beast. To be more precise, this team was beating up the magical beast that they had surrounded in the middle. Currently, the only people who can enter the behemoth forest are members of the 3 empires. If others want to enter the behemoth forest, they will be blocked by the camp outside the behemoth forest. Unless they want to force their way in, or if they are special like Wu Yan's group, they are considered members of the 3 empires. This group of about 10 people is the elite team of the Ailu Empire's behemoth forest camp. There is only one reason why they are here. They are here to follow the camp's orders and hunt demonic beasts. But it seems like they are in big trouble. Ha! Amidst the shouts, the 6 warriors in the 10-man team circulated their warrior chi and performed their battle skills. They rushed to the front of the magical beast that was 2 to 3 times larger than them. Without any hesitation, they smashed their warrior chi and battle skills onto the huge magical beast. Oh, the demonic beast looks like a bear, but it has the head of a lion. The 3-legged magical beast let out a painful howl amidst a series of muffled sounds. Its incomparably scarlet beastly eyes seemed somewhat crazed under the influence of the pain. The 3 feet that were thicker than the head stomped on the ground, and with a loud bang the ground cracked. At the same time, a swamp made of magic replaced the cracked ground. Quick! Fall back! Seeing this scene, a warrior who seemed to be the leader of this team, who was much older than the others, gave the order. That beast is using magic. Warriors fall back. Magicians use this opportunity. Use magic. Obviously, this was not the first time this leader had faced such a situation. His orders were very reasonable. The other members of the team also trusted their leader very much. Therefore, the 6 soldiers who had intended to charge forward immediately retreated without hesitation. Of course they want to retreat. But the demonic beast that is being beaten up doesn't agree. Oh! An angry howl echoed in the air, followed by a dense magical wave. The magical swamp on the ground seems to have come alive. At the same time, the magical wave and the magical wave reverberated in the air. The swamp suddenly wriggled. It floated up from the ground and spread out like a black fishing net, covering the retreating warriors one by one. Judging from the magical wave flowing through the swamp, if the 6 warriors are caught in the swamp, then the outcome will be death. The situation is very serious. However, there wasn't the slightest bit of panic on the leader's face. Seeing that the swamp net was about to cover the 6 warriors, he waved his hand forcefully. Release. As soon as he said that, a wave of mana behind the leader flickered wildly, turning into scarlet flames that formed an expanding ring of fire. Under the control of the 3 mages with magic staffs, the ring of fire shot into the swamp net like a cannonball, creating sonic booms. Boom. The black swamp net and the scarlet ring of fire collided. With the 2 as the center, a violent shockwave spread out in all directions. When the shockwave subsided, the black swamp net and the scarlet ring of fire disappeared at the same time. Now is the time. The leader let out a loud shout. Holding the knight's sword in his hand, his body turned into a blur as he flashed in front of the huge magic beast. All of the do chi in his body was mobilized by him and surged into the armament in his hand. Immediately after, he chopped down with all his might and chopped at the neck of the magic beast. Puchi? A crisp sound rang out from the intersection between the armaments and the demon's neck. Like a piece of paper being torn apart, red liquid sprayed out. The knight's sword wrapped in combat aura slashed through the neck of the demon. In less than a second, the neck that was thicker than a human's waist was instantly severed. The howling of the magical beast came to an abrupt end. It could no longer be heard. Only the head that was dyed red with blood was left. It fell to the ground with a dull thud in front of its owner's beastly eyes that were still wide open in death. When the head of the demonic beast fell to the ground, the body of the demonic beast slowly fell to the ground. A large amount of blood gushed out from the neck and dyed the ground red. It was a clear indication of the victory and defeat of this battle. We won. Ah, that big guy is finally dead. Boss is so mighty. As expected of the boss. That was a level 8 demonic beast. Just like that, the boss cut off its neck. Looks like when we get back to the camp we will have something to show off. You guys, none of you are serious. Holding the head of the demonic beast, the leader walked back to the group and laughed. If it wasn't for your help, how could I have killed this beast? I am only at the peak of level 7. There is still a long way to go before I reach level 8. Boss, don't be so humble. Strength is one thing, intelligence is also very important. One of the members of the group said. That timing, TSK, it was really accurate. If it was a bit slower or a bit faster we would have to fight for a long time. That's right, that's right. Everyone in the team immediately agreed, praising the leader to the point that he felt a little smug. But that was indeed the case. If it weren't for the leader's precise timing, it would have been difficult for their team of 10 Tier 7 powerhouses to defeat a Tier 8 magical beast even if they ganged up on it. Moreover, it was just a Tier 8 magical beast that had just reached Tier 8. If that demonic beast's level was a bit higher, it would be a bit uncertain who would live and who would die. Of course, at that time, the leader would not hesitate to give the order to retreat. Just as the entire group was immersed in the joy of killing a Class 8 magical beast, a few ferocious eyes suddenly appeared from the bushes at the side. Holding the head of the Class 8 magical beast in his hand, the leader of the group suddenly felt that something was wrong. He turned his head abruptly to look behind him. Roar! Almost at the same time, a demonic roar resounded. From the bushes, the owner of the ferocious eyes rushed out and pounced on the leader. Boss! Everyone in the group cried out in alarm, waking up the leader who was unable to react. Realizing that he might have become the hunting target of a certain magical beast, he forced himself to pull himself together. He raised the head of the magical beast in his hand and forcefully threw it towards the incoming magical beast, smashing it to the ground in the nick of time. Only now did everyone see the full appearance of the attacker. But when they saw it, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Pitch-black scales, tentacle-like limbs, and a single eye socket with 7 eyes. That has completely exceeded the image of the attacker in everyone's imagination. What kind of monster is that? Many people reflexively took a step back. Roar! The monster-like demonic beast roared and stomped on the ground with its 4 limbs and attacked again. Be careful. Suppressing the fear in his heart, the leader shouted. But the ferocious appearance of the demonic beast made some of the more timid ones feel fear. One of them even had a fierce look on his face and stomped on the ground. He rushed in front of the monster-like demonic beast and used the weapon in his hand to chop it. Everyone turned pale with fright. Just as they were about to cry out in alarm, they did not expect that the magical beast monster would actually be chopped into 2 halves by the person who had frantically attacked out of fear. It bounced on the ground twice and did not move anymore. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. The person who attacked was also stunned. His face was still pale. Looking at the demonic beast that was chopped in half by him, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. What is this? So it's just a wax spear that looks like silver. Nice to look at but useless. Hearing his words, everyone in the group sighed in relief and laughed. Only the leader stared at the demonic beast on the ground. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black light shot out from the demonic beast on the ground and merged into the body of the person who attacked. Following a painful roar, the expressions of the other people in the team were filled with horror. Because their familiar companion has turned into a nondescript demonic beast. Roar! In the midst of the roar, a cruel battle has begun. Wu Yen and the others did not know that in the behemoth forest, demonic beasts were not the only ones who were possessed by the black light. Chapter 1029. Behemoth Forest Outpost, Central Tent, Pelosi, Bingling, and Bishi were all present in the tent. The higher-ups from the various families were present as well. They were lined up on both sides of the tent. Pelosi, Bingling, and Bishi were standing in the middle of the tent. Their expressions changed as they looked at the corpses on the ground. For a moment, the atmosphere in the tent was abnormally heavy. Pelosi, Bingling, and Bishi looked at each other. They could see the seriousness in each other's eyes. Especially Bingling. His expression was gloomy. It was obvious that he was in a bad mood right now. Among everyone present, Pelosi was without a doubt the one with the highest status, strength, and seniority. Even though Bingling and Bishi were both in charge of the camp, they were still very young and lacked experience in certain areas. Compared to Pelosi, they were still considered juniors. Therefore, the two of them turned their attention to Pelosi. Seeing that no one made a sound, Pelosi was silent for a while, then glanced at the leader who was standing aside with a painful expression on his face. Are you sure it was a black light that turned your men into monsters? Yes, I am sure. The leader looked at the corpses on the ground. His expression became sorrowful again. After killing the demonic beast, the black light ran out from the corpse of the demonic beast. It attached itself to one of my men. He didn't even have a chance to struggle before he turned into a monster. He attacked us and his strength increased greatly. He is at least at the 8th level. We had no choice but to fight him. His strength increased too much. He killed 3 of our men in an instant. The leader's face paled. He seemed to have recalled the situation back then. In order to prevent any more casualties in the team, we had no choice but to kill them. Even so, 5 people died in the team. Other than me, the other person also lost an arm. I was the only one who was lucky enough to be fine. Under the leader's narration, Yi Zichen nodded. Everyone present seemed to recall the scene at that time, and their gazes towards the leader gradually became sympathetic. His comrade turned into a monster and killed the rest of his men. The leader had no choice but to kill his comrade in order to protect the rest of his men. In the end, they were the only ones who survived. They couldn't imagine what happened. If they were in the same situation, they might go crazy. Pelosi sighed and patted the leader's shoulder. He comforted him before asking, "What about the black light?" "What?" "After the possessed man died, the black light flew away. That streak of black light flew away." "Flew away." Bingling and Bishi frowned. "Do you know where it went?" The leader smiled bitterly and shook his head. "We only know that it flew towards the depths of the behemoth forest." The scene fell into silence once again. Pelosi glanced at the corpses on the ground, his gaze lingering on the corpse that was said to have turned into a monster for the longest time. He muttered to himself for a moment before turning back to look at the ice spirit. "Bingling, you know the monster and the black light the best. What do you think?" "What do you think?" Hearing this, the ice spirit's face turned ashen for a moment, but it soon turned into a bitter smile. "He knows the monster and the black light the best?" "That's right. After all, Bingling's uncle Marcus and his brother Bing Mian had both turned into such monsters. I don't know much about it. I only know that the black light can possess a person and turn them into a monster. It also has the ability to raise a person's level. Other than that, I don't know anything else." Bingling took a deep breath and narrowed his eyes. "However, I think Wu Yen knows more about it than we do." The moment the name Wu Yen was uttered, the tense atmosphere froze. As long as one was in the camp, there was no one who didn't know this person who had once stirred up a storm in the camp. As long as one was in the camp, they would feel a little bit of fear towards this name. That's because he's too hard to control. He's super strong and he does whatever he wants. He's fearless and has a group of equally strong girls with strange abilities. Who can guarantee that they won't be afraid of someone like him? At least, no one here is afraid of him. That includes Pelosi, Bingling, and Bishi. The ice spirit glanced at the crowd and said, "Uncle Marcus turned into a monster because he wanted to take revenge on him. Otherwise, with his pride, he wouldn't have turned into a monster for the sake of improving his strength. Bing Mian turned into a monster because he chased the black light all the way to the base of the Saito family. In the end, he was the one who destroyed the black light. Bing Ling recalled the time when the black light came out of Bing Mian's body and attached itself to Wu Yen. Not only did Wu Yen not turn into a monster, but he also forced the black light out of his body and crushed it. Bing Ling's face tensed up. He's the one who dealt with the black light the most. I don't think anyone knows the black light better than him. Hearing the ice spirit's words, everyone present felt that it made sense and nodded thoughtfully. At this moment, you've guessed wrongly this time around. My understanding of the black light is not much different from yours. As the voice sounded, a figure emerged from the void and appeared in front of everyone. This person is none other than Wu Yen. Wu Yen. Gasps of surprise rang out from inside the tent, causing a commotion. Pelosi, Bing Ling, and Bishi were also shocked. Why are you here? Wu Yen chuckled and glanced at the corpses on the ground. The news that one of the teams in the camp suffered heavy casualties, and the leading captain ran to the tent of the person in charge of the central camp with a pale face, has long spread throughout the entire camp. Not long after, all of you gathered all of the higher-ups in the camp. As long as one is not stupid, one would be able to guess that something must have happened. I'm just curious and came to take a look. Wu Yen looked at Pelosi and the others. But I didn't expect to get something out of my curiosity. Pelosi, Bing Ling, and Bishi looked at each other and smiled wryly. Is Wu Yen really the bane of the camp? Every time something happens in the camp, it has something to do with him. The three people in charge sighed helplessly and they looked at Wu Yen. Then what do you think of it? What else can I think? I told you that I know as much as you do. Wu Yen crossed his arms and looked at Pelosi, Bing Ling, and Bishi. The only thing you can do now is to spread the news. Tell everyone in the camp to be on guard against unknown black lights when they hunt in the giant beast forest. It's best to expand the size of each team to ensure their safety. That's right, Lin Sanjiu said. Pelosi, Bing Ling, and Bishi were silent for a moment before they nodded with a heavy expression on their faces. Then, about the black light? His wine-red eyes flashed with an inexplicable coldness as he opened his mouth. I will investigate the black light. Everyone present was stunned. Of course, if you find out anything, let me know. Wu Yen turned around and walked out of the tent without looking back. The atmosphere in the tent reverted back to its previous tense state. When he exited the tent, he saw Hinajiku, Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, Kotori, Kurumi, and the other girls standing in front of the tent. They were all looking at him. It seems like they heard the conversation inside the tent. What do you plan to do? Kotori asked with a lollipop in her mouth. Wu Yen raised his head and looked at the behemoth forest outside the camp. He clenched his fist. It seems like the situation is more serious than we thought. The black light must still be active in the behemoth forest. We must investigate the behemoth forest. For our sisters. The girls nodded their heads at the same time. Their faces were filled with determination. Chapter 1030. Behemoth Forest. If one were to look down from above the behemoth forest, one would find the behemoth forest to be very quiet. There were no strange roars of magic beasts coming from the sky. It was as if they were blocked by those towering trees. The sounds of birds, beasts, and insects also couldn't reach here. Only sometimes some flying magic beasts would fly over here and make some strange noises. Aside from that, the sky above the behemoth forest is unexpectedly quiet. However, this tranquility was soon dispelled by two sonic booms. In the distant horizon, two slender silhouettes flew through the sky like shooting stars. They arrived above the behemoth forest at an extremely fast speed. Of course, this extremely fast speed is only relative. For the two silhouettes, this speed is neither fast nor slow. It's not that they don't want to go faster, it's just that if they go too fast, it'll affect the investigation of blacklight. Their plump wings supported their masters as they glided through the air. Under the control of their masters, they flew through the air above the behemoth forest bit by bit. From time to time, one or two pink or pure white feathers could be seen falling from their wings into the behemoth forest below. Their casual clothes have been replaced with light armor that is only used in battle. The style is quite revealing. It's very pleasing to the eye. The two angelic girls were flapping their wings as they hovered above the behemoth forest. Their crimson eyes scanned the behemoth forest below them. One could faintly see two sci-fi-like frames fluctuating. Under the influence of their crimson pupils, the two girls' devastatingly beautiful faces appeared somewhat cold and emotionless, as if they were puppets that only knew how to carry out missions. It was very easy for people to feel a sense of sanctity that made them unapproachable. Unfortunately, this sense of sanctity didn't last long. Coo, it sounded like a cute animal's cry. The strange sound came from a pair of pure white wings flapping in blue and white light armor. She has long hair. It came from a girl with 2 bundles of blonde hair at the end of her hair. If one were to look closely, they would notice the source of the strange sound came from the girl's stomach. For a split second, the girl with short pink hair and pink wings flapping and wearing white light armor, with 2 small ponytails hanging behind her back, paused for a moment. Although she quickly returned to her original state, the girl's gaze was cast towards the owner of the strange sound. You. The frame in her eyes disappeared and the cold expression disappeared. It was replaced by a teary expression. Astria clutched her stomach and whimpered. I'm so hungry. Are you hungry? Ikaros and her crimson eyes disappeared together. Her indigo eyes couldn't help but look at Astria. Her expression but her voice hesitation. Do you want to go back and eat? In the end, Ikaros asked. Astria smiled happily. However, the joy disappeared after a while. She shook her head firmly. I really want to go back for dinner, but we can't go back until we finish what Master ordered us to do. Ikaros raised her eyes and asked softly, Are you all right? I'm fine. I'm fine. Astria clenched her fists to express her conviction. Master won't be angry if we go back now, but Astria doesn't want to see Master disappointed. Ripples appeared in Ikaros's eyes. She pondered for a moment before nodding firmly. Me too. I don't want to see Master disappointed. Then, Ikaros-senpai, let's continue. Okay. Ikaros and Astria entered their combat mode and scanned the behemoth forest. Wu Yen wanted to investigate the black light in the behemoth forest, but Shokuho Misaki and Kodori stopped him. The reason why they were investigating the black light was because the Misaka sisters' base was in the giant beast forest. The black light's existence was very likely to endanger the sisters, so they had to investigate it thoroughly. Even if they couldn't investigate it thoroughly, they had to at least find out the ins and outs of the black light or expel it to ensure the sisters' safety. However, it was also because of this that the defenses of the base had to be raised. Therefore, after talking to Pelosi, Bingling, and Bishi yesterday, they all agreed that it was time to set up the defensive barrier around the base in advance. This way, they can more or less guarantee the safety of the sisters who are busy working in the incomplete base. This way, Wu Yen won't be able to participate in the investigation. After all, Wu Yen and Yukari are the only ones who know how to use barrier techniques. Wu Yen had no choice but to give up on the idea of investigating the black light himself. Ikaros and Astria are the strongest in the group after Yukari and himself to investigate the behemoth forest. Other than Wu Yen and Yukari, Flandre-chan is the strongest in the group. She has the highest level after Yukari. She also has the ability to destroy eyes. Even if Wu Yen goes up against Flandre-chan, he won't be able to defeat her without Ruby mode. It's the same even if he summons all of his familiars. However, Flandre-chan is strong, but her mind is still the same as a child's. It's hard to guarantee that she won't lose her sense of direction if she's sent on an investigation mission. Other than Wu Yen, Yukari, and Flandre-chan, Ikaros and Astria are the strongest in the group. Ikaros and Astria are omnipotent angels. They aren't as good at investigating as combat, but they aren't weak either. The 2 angelic girls have wide-area radars that can scan everything within a certain range. They are the best candidates for the investigation. Of course, Astria's IQ is her weakness. It's inevitable for her to get into some accidents when she's on a mission. However, with Ikaros accompanying her, she should be fine. With the wide-area radars, Ikaros and Astria don't need to explore the entire behemoth forest. They only need to move their positions so that the behemoth forest is within the radar's range. With their speed, it didn't take long for them to scan a small portion of the forest. Flying above the behemoth forest, the 2 angelic girls kept flapping their wings and changing their positions. They scanned the entire behemoth forest with their wide-area radars. This saved them a lot of trouble by avoiding the demonic beasts in the behemoth forest. As more and more areas were scanned, Ikaros and Astria started to notice some strange-looking demonic beasts. Pitch-black scales, tentacle-like limbs, and a single eye socket with 7 eyes. This appearance might be unfamiliar to others, but to the 2 girls who had seen Marcus turn into a monster, it wasn't familiar, but it was impossible for them to be mistaken. These monster-like demonic beasts must be possessed by the black light. No, it's not just demonic beasts. Ikaros and Astria also noticed some humans being possessed by the black light and turned into monsters. Ikaros-senpai. Astria turned around and looked at Ikaros. What should we do? Ikaros raised her head. Her hair swelled up and a halo floated above her head. A cold glint flashed in her crimson eyes. Target eliminated. Ikaros didn't give Astrea a chance to react. She unfurled her wings of light and countless pink-colored missiles shot out. They drew an arc in the air and landed accurately on the monsters as if they had eyes of their own. Bang 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 bang, a series of explosions echoed in the behemoth forest. When the explosions stopped, Ikaros and Astrea's wide-area radars showed only distorted black lights flying into the distance. The black lights were all flying in the same direction. Ikaros-senpai. Ikaros nodded. She and Astrea flew towards the direction of the black lights. Chapter 1031. At the same time, a large amount of black lights were flying around the inner area of the behemoth forest like they were on a rampage. The dense foliage did not hinder them in the slightest. They streaked across the sky in arcs of light, leaving a trail of black light behind them. They seemed to have a purpose as they flew in a certain direction. It was as if they had eyes. Even if there were trees in their path, they would dodge them and continue flying forward. For a moment, the entire behemoth forest was enveloped by a strange phenomenon. A large amount of black lights flew through the forest like bees returning to their hive. Coupled with the continuous sound of breaking air, if the behemoth forest was the sky and the black lights were silver, it would look like a meteor shower at night. It's a beautiful sight, if you ignore their nature. There shouldn't be this many black lights. Although these black lights had no consciousness, they had some kind of instinct just as Z had deduced. Not only could they sense danger, but they could also attach themselves to living creatures and bring about changes to them. This was also a hidden instinct of the black lights. The black lights reside in living creatures. That's why most of the black lights here are attached to the bodies of demonic beasts in the behemoth forest. A small number of them are attached to humans. After mutating, the black lights returned to normal. But now, the targets of the black lights were reduced to ashes by Ikaros' Artemis, permanent rear-homing missile. So, the black lights had no choice but to leave their hosts and follow their instincts. They have to continue searching for the next host. But now, for some reason, these black lights had given up on their instinct to search for a host and were all rushing in the same direction. Clearly there was something fishy. Ikaros and Astrea noticed this and didn't choose to destroy the black lights. Instead, they let them move on their own and lead the way. As for why there are so many black lights, that's simple. Because along the way, as long as Ikaros came across any living being possessed by the black light, it would fire Artemis, permanent tail-homing missile, to free those poor bastards from their suffering. Over time. That's why there are so many black lights. It's a good thing Wu Yen and the others didn't see this or they would be shocked. They didn't expect there to be so many black lights in the behemoth forest. However, wasn't it precisely because it was unexpected that they chose to investigate? They chased after the black lights. Ikaros and Astrea tried their best to maintain a safe distance to avoid being possessed by the black light. Their radar was fully activated so they didn't have to worry about losing their target. They focused on flying. Ikaros was the only one who kept releasing cherry-colored missiles. She wanted to destroy the possessed creatures. After an unknown amount of time, the two angelic girls left a trail of feathers in their wake. They slowly approached the edge of the behemoth forest. As they got closer to the behemoth forest, Ikaros and Astrea's eyes started fluctuating more and more. Both of them are getting serious. That was because, in their wide-area radar, there were already grade 9 magical beasts that had fallen into their scanning range. If the black light chose to possess their bodies, then these demonic beasts would immediately become the most terrifying enemies. Think about it, they are already tier 9 demonic beasts. If the black lights enhanced them, how much stronger would they become? One thing is for sure, Ikaros and Astrea won't benefit from this. While the two girls were analyzing the situation, the black lights flashed past the tier 9 demonic beasts and flew in a certain direction. The two girls sighed in relief, but they were also confused. Where did the black lights want to go? Whoosh 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 whoosh. The sound of the giant beast's forest breaking through the air continued. The speed of the black lights seemed to have increased. Many magical beasts in the giant beast's forest saw the black lights dancing in the sky. They were so scared that they started to roar. Some of them even ran away. That kind of scene can be imagined. But that still wasn't enough reason for Ikaros and Astrea to stop. Until a certain moment. Ikaros-senpai. Astrea flapped her wings in boredom and turned on her radar out of reflex. She raised her head and looked in front of her. Astrea yelped in surprise and stopped in mid-air, dragging Ikaros along with her. What's wrong? Ikaros maintained her Queen of the Sky mode. She looked at Astrea with a cold expression. Ikaros was even more emotionless than her normal self. Astria didn't mind at all. She pointed in front of her. Look over there. There. Ikaros followed Astria's instructions and looked at the direction Astria was pointing at. The next moment her crimson eyes shrunk. There's a tall cliff in the behemoth forest. It's a cliff shrouded in thick black fog. The black fog tumbled like a storm, like the dark clouds before a storm. One could faintly hear the whistling of the wind. Streaks of black light danced back and forth in the black fog. Looking at the number, it was like water droplets in the sea. It was impossible to count them with just a few words. The black lights that led the way for Ikaros and Astria started circling around each other. They flew into the black mist and became one of the many black lights. They were instantly swallowed up by the other black lights. It was impossible to tell which ones were originally here and which ones were added later. This situation is still going on. Even Ikaros and Astria didn't know how to react to the situation. It really made one's hair stand on end. The scene in front of him was like a beehive, and the black light was the bees. They were scrambling to get into the beehive, or rolling outside the high cliff with the black fog, as if something extremely terrifying was brewing. If there was a person with trypophobia here, he or she would definitely be scared to death by the scene in front of him. There are too many black lights. They're too dense. If there are more black lights in the behemoth forest, the entire behemoth forest will be turned into a land of monsters. Even the camp outside the behemoth forest might be affected. Ikaros didn't feel anything when she thought about monsters like Marcus taking over the behemoth forest and swarming out of the behemoth forest. Astria, on the other hand, was terrified. Hey Ikaros-senpai. Astria shifted her gaze away from Galya and looked at Ikaros. She asked anxiously. What is that? What? I don't know. Ikaros shook her head. There's a high possibility that this is the center of the light source. You mean? Astria tilted her head. She hesitated for a moment and said in an uncertain tone, Is this the source of the black light? Based on the current situation, Ikaros's eyes were moving up and down as she observed the cliff. To be more precise, she was analyzing the situation inside the cliff. There's a high possibility. Then, Astria glanced at the cliff. Should we inform Master? Ikaros also hesitated for a moment before looking at the high cliff. Before that, let's confirm it. After that, Ikaros flapped her wings and flew towards the cliff. Wait. Ikaros-senpai. Astria wanted to call out to Ikaros, but Ikaros is already close to the cliff. Astria suppressed the restlessness in her heart, and as if she was praying to Wu Yen, she mumbled Master twice before flying over to Wu Yen. With the passage of time, the black lights that are flying towards them are getting thinner and thinner. Looks like they're all about to enter the cliff. Ikaros also arrived at the edge of the cliff. Looking at the black fog and black lights, the square frame in her crimson eyes suddenly expanded. This proves that her master is trying her best to analyze everything in front of her, trying to see through the cliff's inner workings. It was also at this moment that a phenomenon occurred. The black fog suddenly erupted and spread out, wrapping around Ikaros' figure in an instant. Ikaros-senpai. Astria's sorrowful wail reverberated throughout the arena. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.